All right, I'm going to call the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting to order. I'm going to start with a roll call.
Rocco Limatone.
James Meyer.
Aziz Hassan.
Norma Drummond.
Mary Seminara.
Can I ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to welcome our newest member, Rocco Limatone.
Thank you.
So, all right, on tonight's agenda, we have one item that's on for an adjourned public hearing where we did get a email from the applicant this afternoon that there's no new information. So we will briefly open that, but again, anybody who's here for item number 1, there's no new information. And also on our agenda, item number 12 has been pulled. We'll still have to make a motion regarding a refund, but there will be no discussion regarding item number 12. So our next 2 meetings coming up are going to be Tuesday, July 23rd and Tuesday, August 27th. We do have one set of minutes to approve. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our May 28th meeting as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, so item number 1 is, let me just explain the process for those of you who are new, because I know we have a bunch of new applications. The first items on our agenda are public hearings. Those are applications that this board has had an opportunity to review already. They are now ready for public comment. The second part of our meeting is to actually review the applications themselves, the new reviews. These are generally the first time we've seen the applications. There are a couple applications that have been on hold for a couple months. So, there are some we have seen before, but the board will go through those in an initial review, and then when they're ready, we'll assign them for public comment and then invite the neighbors in at that appropriate time. So the first item on our agenda is an adjourned public hearing. Item number 1, Appeal 3882, Klaus Garage, Inc., Dave Lawrence, owner of Klaus Garage, Inc., 2619 Route 52, Hopewell Junction, is requesting an expansion of a non-conforming use and interpretation of automobile service facility and used car sales, as well as a variance to the 100-foot buffer requirement on Route 52 in order to continue the outside display of cars pursuant to sections 194-3, 194-16, 194-86, 194-116, and Note 11 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to reconvene the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So again, noting that we did get an email from the applicant this afternoon that there is no new information. Is there anyone who wishes to speak for or against this appeal? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn the public hearing to next month?
We have been adjourning it
I know. Go ahead.
for the last 4 months or so, maybe.
Probably
so
longer
maybe
than
it's
that.
about time to do something to get this thing off our books.
So do we wish the applicant to show up next month?
I was sort of thinking the same thing, especially since the request to display vehicles is being utilized now as opposed to going forward with a hearing. So
Okay.
I think at some point it needs to be addressed, whether it's, drop dead next meeting or assume something has to be done.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to direct the clerk to send a letter to the applicant that we wish to see him at next month's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, good. All right, with that, we are going to make a motion to adjourn this to next month's.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, good. All right, so item number 2 is Appeal 3901, Hartshorn. Catherine Hartshorn, 843 Farmers Mill Road, Carmel, is requesting an area variance of .42 acres for lot count calculation in order to subdivide a 7.81 acre parcel of land, which is zone B1 R3, that she owns at 3875 Route 52, into 2 lots, one of which is proposed to be 3.23 acres and the other is proposed to be 4.5 acres. Second, a .65 acre area variance for the buildable area for lot 2, a 13-foot wide variance for the width of the flagpole, all pursuant to sections 183-19C1, 163, 19H1, and 194-92.1 of the East Fishkill Code. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm John Watson from Insight Engineering. I'm here with the applicant, Kathy Hartshorn, and our attorney, Frank Smith. We are back again this month. We have revised our plan based on comments at the last meeting. The board was, that your main concern at the last meeting was the amount of usable area around the existing Lot 1, which is the lot in the front of the properties. And what we've done is we were able to readjust the property line between Lot 1 and Lot 2, the proposed property line, to give more usable area for that lot. And what we've done to illustrate that is we submitted two separate figures, a figure A and a figure B. Figure A showed the potential location of a future 20-foot by 24-foot wide garage on the property. So it's a standalone garage that you could fit on the property with the current, or with the proposed property line configuration. We also looked at, we showed the septic system and a relocated well location and a potential future pool location. So those were the main items that came up with the usability of this property in the future if we were to make this subdivision. So I think that this redevelopment sketch does show that with the current property line configuration, you would be able to redevelop that property with a garage, a replacement septic system, a new well, and a pool, all working on the property. The other thing we looked at is figure B. That was, the question also came up if because the property is in a business zone right now, what if the property would revert from commercial back to, from residential back to some type of commercial use? So what we did is we showed some additional parking spaces. So we would have a total of 8 parking spaces on that property, which we think is quite appropriate for a building of that size in the zone and type of use that we would anticipate being there. As I said, those were the main items last month of the board's concerns. So we do think we've shown that this lot line is definitely improvement over the previous one. We also formally submitted all of the pictures that we brought and showed to the board last month. I'm not going to go through them again, but just want to let you know for the record we have submitted them. And I don't think I have anything else. I think we addressed your questions. No, I just want to turn it over to Frank.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. Frank J. Smith III on behalf of the Law Office of William A. Schilling, Jr., P.C., located at 122 Old Route 6, Carmel, New York. We are here on behalf of the applicant, Ms. Catherine Hartshorn. As you know, the property is located at 3875 Route 52, and the entire property is made up of 7.81 acres, split between a B1 and R3 district. I would like to state for the record that in the May 31st submission to this board, there was one change to an area variance, and that would be for the flagpole area, buildable area, and that variance is actually decreased now and is seeking a 0.58 acre area variance as opposed to 0.65. For purposes of the public hearing and for those who may not have been here at previous meetings, I'd just like to go through the relief that's being requested this evening. It's in the form of 3 area variances. The first is for lot count. The town requires 2, and we provide 1.58, seeking an area variance of 0.42 lots. The flag lot buildable area, the requirement is 4.5 acres. We provide 3.92, seeking a variance of 0.58 acres. And flagpole width has a 50-foot requirement. We provide 37 feet, seeking an area variance of 13 feet. As this board knows, when determining whether to grant an area variance, there are 5 considerations to take into account. The first is the impact to the neighborhood and to surrounding property owners. And in this instance, there would be no adverse impact to the neighborhood or surrounding property owners. The residential use is more restrictive than a business use, and this is also going to be a high-quality and high-dollar residential construction. Second is whether the need for variance can be obviated, and in this instance, it cannot be obviated any further. Throughout our appearances before this board, we have modified the plans based on the suggestions given to us. We've went from 4 variances to 3. That's part of the reason why our flagpole width variance is a bit larger than we had initially proposed. But this is the best that we can do to reach the minimum variance possible. The third is whether or not the project would create an adverse environmental impact. And in this instance, it would not. As stated previously, a residential use is more restrictive than a business use, and the plan has taken into account the watershed wetland adjacent area, and there will be no disturbance in that area whatsoever. The fourth criteria is whether the variances being sought are substantial, and I contend that they are not. In terms of buildable area, we are 87% compliant. In terms of lot count, we are 79% compliant. And in terms of flagpole width, we are 74% compliance. And again, that's increased because we got rid of the proposed side yard variance of the initial existing structure. The last criteria to take into consideration is whether or not this instance and need for variance was self-created, and it most certainly was not. As we've discussed before, the zoning board does not make the determination of where the lines are drawn on the zoning map, and that's something that the town board does. And creating a split lot is created a situation where we've attempted to develop the property commercially. That did not work, so instead we procured a property in the town of Kent, which was developed commercially, and now we're seeking to develop residentially. And in order to do so, these are the 3 variances that we would need to make sure that our subdivision and development is done properly. So with that said, I respectfully submit before this board that the relief sought is in the form of the lot count variance, flag lot buildable area variance, and flagpole width variance. We thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, we're more than welcome to address them now.
Comments or questions from board members?
I'm good.
Okay, we have reviewed this previously. This is our second public hearing on this. Again, I know everything we said at the last public hearing is certainly on the record. I think it's important for, those who may be new here to understand that let me start with your buildable area, okay? You need a 0.42 acre variance on the buildable area. That's because you're in, 0.42 lot, that's because you're entitled to 1.58 acres based on the usable land that you have now, okay? There's a significant portion of wetlands on here. In fact, I think it's over 25% of the site is, in fact, wetlands. So the second issue was the flagpole, and in fact, the house, that's the existing residence that's on there, sits in what would be the required area for the flagpole. And so your first instance, you came in requesting a variance. I think you only needed 2 feet, but that was because you're asking for the 8 feet. That was because you were putting the flagpole line, the property line, at only 2 feet away from the house, which we discussed and just said that was a little on the ridiculous side, because it doesn't even allow somebody to put a ladder up to clean their gutters, or, it doesn't allow for any kind of snow storage or anything like that, and literally puts all those cars, going back to the house in the back within 2 feet of this house that's already there, that's already occupied and already tenanted. So I think, certainly those are 2 of the bigger issues that, that you just can't get past with this application. I do want it known on the record for the board members, particularly since we do have a new member, that the actions of this board are not, in fact, subdividing the property. You must still go before the planning board.
Of course.
This application, as we've previously talked about, but I don't think it was in the discussion in the context of the public hearing, this was previously reviewed by the planning board, or at least by the planner, and it was not favorably looked at. In fact, that's part of the reason that it's taken you years to get to this point. And so there do still continue to be concerns, but again, it's up to this board to make our determination related to the appeal that's before us. And then, if you're successful here, you would in fact still have to go to the planning board.
Of course. And I do believe that we have tried our absolute best in a good faith effort to mitigate the concerns of this board, particularly when it comes to the flagpole width and the variance that we initially sought for side yard setback. That variance has now been totally removed, and that's not before the board this evening. It's just the flagpole width. So we did take that into consideration, and we thought that it was important as well. And we also thought it was important to provide ample parking for the initial structure. I believe the plans that were submitted show proposed uses into the future to show that that property could be utilized in a multitude of different ways within the zone that it's, the B1 zone that it's in now. But with that said, I do think that we have made the best effort possible before this board to show that we're willing to take your suggestions and to incorporate that into our plan to be as compliant as possible and seek the minimum variance necessary.
I mean, I don't have further comment. I would agree that you tried, and we certainly have evolved a lot from the first proposal that came, which I couldn't see happening at all, to something that at least maybe we can consider and see what we can vote on later on. So I appreciate those efforts, but I don't have any additional comments pursuant to this plan than what I've made before.
And one last comment that I would like to make, because the flagpole is such an important aspect, is that when there's a shared driveway, which this property would use, the town requires the width of that driveway to be 16 feet. And at this point, we provide at least 18 feet on the shared driveway. So I do think that that's important to note, although it's not subject of what's before the board this evening, but in terms of compliance with the code, the shared driveway width is in excess of what is required by the code.
Well, that actually raises a question. So that shared driveway width, does it make a difference? I frankly don't know the answer, whether part of that shared is commercial? Or is that just residential you're talking about for shared driveway width, or is that everything? Because if that's business, then you're gonna have potentially people going in and out at the same time, which is less likely if it's just two residences.
And I do think that it's important to note that based on our previous appearances here, that this has been a residential structure for the past 66 years. We did attempt to develop the property commercially, and that proved to be unviable. So for the time being, we have an applicant who attempted a commercial development. It did not work. We procured another property to develop commercially, and now we're seeking to develop residentially with a structure that's been residential in nature for nearly 70 years.
I believe you agreed to a restriction moving forward that structure be used only residentially, right, at the last meeting. Am I right?
Yes, you're correct. We've, if you refer to our May 31st, 2019 cover letter, we list out 4 additional notes that were put on the plan. I discussed them at the last meeting, but we did memorialize them on the plan, and I put them in the letter. I'll paraphrase very quickly. One note is that the limit of disturbance shall be staked out in the field by a licensed land surveyor prior to the start of construction. That will ensure that the contractor won't exceed the limits of disturbance shown on the plans. Another note was there shall be no outside storage of any unregistered vehicles on the property. General note number 8 is there shall be no storage of paving or construction equipment on the property. And general note number 9, there shall be no maintenance or repairs of paving or construction equipment on the property.
So all of the general notes, 6, 7, 8, 9, that I guess you just presented to the, or pointed out to the board, they only deal with the existing applicant's business, but doesn't address for.
Any business.
Yeah, for any business, I mean.
Could you,
My recollection may be off, and it would be nice to review the minutes once they're published, but I do not recall placing a restriction on the existing structure for it to be purely residential use. My recollection is that the property has always been a residential use and that it will continue to be a residential use. I think that we would be willing to put a restriction on that property that it would be used only as a residential use. I know that the applicant, as the owner right now, seeks to use it residentially. Whether or not, as was brought up at the previous meetings, 20 years from now, someone would like to utilize what they can do in a B1 zone, I think that's a bridge that this board and the town in particular with their zoning map would have to cross when they get to it. Because in this instance right now, we did try to develop commercially, and it was unsuccessful. And now we're seeking to develop residentially, and we've tried to mitigate the concerns of the board to the best of our ability in doing so, to show that there will be no commercial use in the back, that this isn't going to be for the paving and blacktop business. So I do think that our primary concerns were with limiting the use on the back portion of the property as to make the board feel better about paving equipment and large construction vehicles.
Okay, so these notes are only dealing with
So,
lot number 2, not number 1. The notes that you just, the general notes that were just identified are dealing with lot number 2, not,
They're on, the intent was for the back lot, but it's also, it applies to both lots, really. So
So
it's,
is it
the way it's set up now, it applies to both lots.
so is it possible to, I mean, I don't know if this is.
be clearer about that?
Yeah, because you say any commercial vehicle or something to that effect rather than specific vehicles, because there's a loop around, somebody could come back and say, well, we don't meet, we don't have a paving equipment, or we have a box car truck that does something different.
Well, I think one of the areas that we ran into is the ambiguity that comes with a commercial vehicle. All pickup trucks that are 3/4 tons and above, whether or not they're used for a commercial purpose or not, are deemed a commercial vehicle in New York State. So I don't think that we want to limit it to the extent where you can't park a pickup truck there. I believe that the spirit of this is to ensure the board that we're not going to be parking 10-wheelers and paving equipment and unregistered vehicles on the property. Again, also in connection with the antique vehicles that will be stored there as well.
Okay. I don't know.
Unfortunately, some of these comments are making me think more. It's not fair. So one question by council raising whether you agreed that it will remain residential. I'm just thinking out loud, does that mean then we would have a use variance that's before the board? Then the other thing is, again, I haven't researched this idea of a shared driveway till you came up. I know you can have a shared driveway for residential, which would seem to go along with council indicating that, I believe that you were agreeing to keep residential, but again, jumping to that issue of a use variance. I don't know whether shared driveways are allowed, I presume they are for commercial. I don't know what the requirements are for that.
They're certainly allowed for commercial, because we have shared driveways all the time and cross-access easements and stuff like that. The question is, I guess, whether a flag pole and a flag lot can be shared access with a residential property, residential and commercial.
Yeah, that's,
I don't know that anybody's done that research.
I haven't done that, and I just know under 194-67-1, they speak for the authorization for shared driveways for residences. I don't know what the requirements are for.
Again, I don't think that that's
Commercial or-
necessarily in our purview, knowing that if this does go forward, it will still have to go back to the planning board. That could very well be something that they have to work through.
And I could think of hypothetical situations where there's a home occupation and there's a shared driveway. So I'm not sure that it's a valid concern for the variances that we're seeking this evening. I do think it is an interesting question, but I can think of a ton of hypothetical scenarios that are different than the facts that we're dealing with this evening.
A home occupation that's permitted is going to be very different than a commercial business that's got box trucks coming off and delivering supplies.
Of
and
course, and this is a residential
Restaurant
use.
use or something like that, which, you know, this could lend itself to in the future.
And my point that I've been trying to make before this board is that we attempted to develop this property commercially. It's not your fault and it's not our fault that the town board drew a line in this property that said the front half is B1 and the back half is R3. This evening, we're seeking 3 area variances, and the decision on that is based upon the 5 criteria in weighing the benefit to the applicant to the detriment to the neighborhood. And I strongly believe that between our commercial development attempt and all of the changes that we've made to this plan so far, we've come to the point where this is the minimum variance necessary in order to develop the property, and I'm concerned that if they're not granted, we're getting into the realm of a taking, and that this property has been rendered unusable. We can talk about proposed uses and future uses, but what we're dealing with today is somebody who tried to develop this property commercially, was unable to do so, purchased a different piece of property in a different town, developed that commercially, and is now seeking to build a beautiful residence. And we have photographs of what the proposed house is going to look like. We know that it's going to be screened from the road. I don't see how this could be a detriment to the neighborhood, given if you look at the surrounding area, and if you're familiar with the surrounding area, there are other more obtrusive commercial uses that are in the area already. And this would be nothing but a benefit to the neighborhood. And I believe that that's been outlined in our previous appearances and again this evening.
Considering at the last, sorry, Jim, considering at the last meeting that you already put on the record that the appraised value of this property is, I don't think it's dropped since what the owner paid for the property. I think you might have a hard case to prove that we're taking property. But that's aside, I think I would encourage this board to not restrict the use, because I don't want anybody to imply that we are in fact granting a use variance in the instance that this does move forward.
And my concern perhaps is if we do grant the variance for the flag lot pole size, are we suggesting then that to the town board that we're locking them into a certain point of view? I don't know, don't want to go down that road for the same reasons that the chair's raising this, that we're not suggesting that it stay residential, but is there different requirements? Sure, there's always shared driveways. You go in all the time and you have a shared driveway which goes into a plaza or something, there's stores off on either side, McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, whatever. There's all kinds of things that'll go off a potential driveway. But that width is then the size of a double driveway. It's a road. It's not the size of a shared driveway for two residences. So are we creating a problem by saying, okay, we'll grant you a variance for the size of the pole?
And I do believe we might be creating a precedent by approving a variance to the flagpole.
So,
But again, there isn't much precedential value when you have to consider all 5 of the criteria. The 5 criteria are there based upon individual property owners. One scenario is going to be factually much different than another scenario. And that's why this board is empowered to grant variances when the code doesn't quite meet what people are looking to do. And I wish that you would look at this and consider the particular use with the facts that are here today, with the applicant that is before you today. And although I understand that future uses are very important, it doesn't have much bearing on what we're applying for today.
well, again, I guess in the sense that, I guess the town could always kick it back to us if they found that the variance, if they were to approve it for business and residential, they were willing to consider that, but the flag lot wasn't, the pole wasn't big enough, they could kick it back for us for further review. Is that possible?
I don't think so. I don't know.
The town board?
Yeah.
Send it, no, I don't think the town board will be able to
Okay.
send it back to
Yeah, I
you.
don't think the town board has a role unless they go to them to request a rezoning of the front portion of the property. So it would go to the planning board next.
Well, I guess that's what I meant. the
Okay,
planning board.
yeah, the
I'm
planning
sorry.
board, in essence, if the planning board wanted to see a different lot line alignment, which is, we've seen a couple at this point, then
They could
the
kick
planning
it
board
back.
could kick it back to us.
That's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was wondering, this is an issue whether it's 18 feet or 16 feet for the shared driveway, and the code says 16 feet, I think you mentioned it. So can we just limit it to 16 feet, not expand it to 18 feet, so that we don't have that issue of a commercial kind of a situation where you have a bigger, you're providing a bigger flag entryway?
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this is the existing driveway that's already there.
It's already 18.
So that driveway,
Okay,
And just to be clear, it's not 16 feet. 16 feet is the paved portion. You have to have 2 feet on either side for a shoulder, so a shared driveway shall be 20 feet in width at least, so I don't know. I'm not sure where the 18 feet come
Yeah,
from. I don't know that.
it's
yeah.
a completely cleared area.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a road by user, in essence, the entire area there,
Exactly.
so there's no,
You've got an 18-foot, yeah, the code requires 16-foot wide with 2-foot shoulders, 20-foot total. We have 18-foot wide road with grass shoulders all the way out to the road, so we
Okay,
have,
so that's not an issue then.
we have an excess of
I
20
don't,
feet,
yeah,
yes.
because I mean,
okay.
as long as we are not expanding the scope of the.
No, yeah, we've tried to make it clear, and we've said both in our letters, that there's no proposed improvements at all to the front half of the property. The whole existing Lot 1 is staying exactly as is. We're just adding a property line, but, everything is staying as is on that front lot.
When you talk about property line, it's just a property line on paper, or are you gonna put a fence there?
That's a
Property
good
line on
question.
paper,
Pardon me?
on paper.
Okay.
Again, that would be, putting a fence there or requiring it would be a role of the planning board, not necessarily us.
Yeah, but again,
But it's that would go a long way in terms of attenuating noise coming from cars passing by too, so. All right, I'm going to open this up for public comment, so is there anyone here who wishes to speak for the appeal from Catherine Hartshorn requesting an area variance of .42 acres for a lot count calculation in order to subdivide a .71 acre parcel of land, which is zone B1 and R3 that she owns at 3870 Route 52 into 2 lots, and a couple other variances. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak? For anybody who's going to speak on any of them, after you've spoken, if you don't mind, could you please sign in? And please make it legible.
print.
Okay, the last meeting, I just
Could
had.
you just
an-
give us your name?
Oh, Adrian Menken.
Thank you.
I'm the neighbor. Anyway, the last meeting, I guess, they talked about the trees in the back, and they were going to, I guess, stay up, basically. I was just wondering, so does that mean in the future, they will also be there too?
All right, you're directing your comments to us.
Okay,
And
yes.
I can tell you that any property owner can do what they want in the future with
Right.
that property.
Okay.
So with subsequent owners, Mrs. Hartshorn, that she can eliminate other trees. Just because she's telling us now she's not taking them down.
Right.
It would not prohibit her from taking them down later.
And I guess what my concerns was because of the wetland and I guess it's DEC is the wetland, is that, or is it freshwater?
Is it DEC or is it DEP? Because this property is in the watershed.
Yeah,
Yeah, the DEP doesn't have wetlands. This is a
Right, but
DEC It's in the New York City watershed, yes, it's in the New York City DEP watershed.
Right.
And it is a New York State DEC wetland, so it's a state wetland. And we are staying out of the 100-foot buffer for the entire project. So the way we have it designed now, there's no disturbance in the 100-foot buffer. We don't need a DEC permit for that.
Okay.
and the other question was, I guess the well in the front, if that was moved to, you're thinking about moving it to the back, I guess?
We're
Or-
not thinking, it was brought up, one of the comments at the last meeting was, it looks like you're limiting the usable area on the front lot. So what we did is we showed a sketch showing potential redevelopment of that front lot, showing that you could get a full replacement septic, a new replacement well, and a garage and a pool, all on the property, all in, the garage meets setbacks, the well meets setbacks to other septics. So we tried to do a code-conforming layout.
So basically, the well would be in the buffer, I guess?
The well would be in the buffer, yes. The replacement well would be in the buffer, but you could get a permit for that. That's something
Yeah.
that's permitted.
Yeah, and that's from the
State
DEC?
yes.
Okay. So basically, when we moved up from the city, and our property is next door, and it's 7.72 acres, and then the wetlands behind it. And when I found the property, it's covered with, or surrounded by the wetlands, surrounded by the trees. And I had asked, I guess, I called the DEC and the building department just to find out about whether anybody can build in back on the wetland or near the wetland, and they had told me no. But, so I just think it's very interesting how things are working, that, you go along so many years and then things change. But, I'm glad that the trees in the back and everything would stay. And it's just that, in the future, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but, right.
Again, for the record, they are not building in the wetland. The wetland have a 100-foot buffer.
Buffer, right.
So they're out of the buffer. So there's a wetland and a 100-foot buffer, and that's been there forever, or
Right.
for a long time. So they're definitely not building in the wetland or in the buffer areas. They're 100% out of the area. So
Okay.
that's not an issue, whether it was your property or their property.
Okay.
And as of right, they are not entitled to build, subdivide the property. That's why they're here.
Right,
Okay, so as of right, they do not have the buildable area, they do not have the right for this second lot. That's why they're gonna deal with us, and if
and
they,
trying to figure it out.
if they get a positive response from this board, then they would move forward. I
Right.
don't know the outcome of this board yet.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, because I know, like, our property is 7.72, and I guess yours is 7.81, and then there's, and we have the one house, and that's basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is yours also split zone, just your front
No,
portion?
it's not split zone. I guess that's what makes the difference, I guess.
Not necessarily, actually.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah. I mean, you need 2 acres in order to
This is a 3-acre
subdivide?
zone. The residential
3
here is 3 acres.
3 acres. So you need 3 acres to subdivide, basically.
Well, and then a whole
And
bunch of
then
other
then
calculations.
depending on what the terrain is, or the environment.
Frontage, yeah, there's a whole sort of other,
Yeah, yeah.
okay,
All right, good.
thank you.
Please print your name.
Is there anybody else? If not, I'm going to encourage the board to close and reserve.
I was gonna ask the applicant if they have anything else to add based on the public hearing.
I think we've,
I think we're good. Unless you have questions, we're good.
So I make a motion to close and close the public hearing and reserve the decision.
okay.
And you have 62 days to get,
This board has 62 days. They don't.
I mean-
We have 62
you have to
days.
wait for up to 62 days.
Did you second it?
I did.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I second it, disregarding the comments.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we are closed and reserved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, item number 3 is a public hearing, Appeal 3905 Pellegrino, Gregory Pellegrino, 58 Blueberry Lane, Stormville is requesting a 1-foot variance for an existing 5-foot decorative black chain link fence pursuant to Section 194-98B of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good evening.
Good evening, it's Gregory Pellegrino. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All right, so we did have a discussion about your
Thanks.
fence.
Okay.
And I think what this board agreed is that folks are allowed 6-foot fences
Yes.
if they are in fact decorative fences. And you don't have, because actually chain link fences by themselves are not allowed, but you do have a vinyl coated black chain
Yes.
link fence. So it makes it, number one, less visible, there's no glare to it, and so I think this board agreed at our last meeting, well, not that we did an interpretation, but I think the general consensus was that it could qualify as a decorative fence, because
Okay.
it's not just your run-of-the-mill.
Okay.
So that said, you mentioned that you have a German Shepherd, or you have a large dog that.
No.
That's,
No, no,
sorry,
no.
that's the other,
No, no,
other
no.
fence that's coming. Sorry.
No problem.
So this is for around your pool?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
right one. Okay, so, but, and it's not gonna be visible?
No.
To the other neighbors? I think you have a 3-acre or thereabout?
Yeah, 3.3 something acre.
So you have a lot that's over 3 acres?
Yes.
So I think, again, if there's any questions or comments from board members, that,
We
no?
covered it, the review, I don't have any questions.
I'm good.
Okay, so let's just see if any of your neighbors have any concerns. Does anyone here have any comments for or against the request from Gregory Pellegrino, 58 Blueberry Lane, Stormville, requesting a 1-foot variance for an existing 5-foot decorative black chain link fence? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And resolution?
Mary's,
Mary, you wanna go?
Sure.
I'll read it, I don't care.
This is appeal number 3905 for Gregory Pellegrino. It's a 1-foot variance for an existing 5-foot decorative black chain link fence pursuant to section 194-98B of the zoning ordinance at 58 Blueberry Lane. Resolution offered by zoning board member Mary Seminara. Whereas the applicant has applied for the above stated variance And whereas this is a type 2 action under seeker and no further action is required, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals moves to adopt their standard decision in order and finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, as the lot is over 3 acres in size, wooded, and since the chain link fence is coated in black vinyl, it is considered decorative. The desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as this fence is a pool enclosure that is required to be at least 4 feet, but because of the slope of the land outside the fenced area, the fence should be 5 feet high in order to better protect from intruders. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions, as the black vinyl covering will limit the visibility of the fence.
Is there a second?
Second.
So votes as follows. Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Rocco?
Aye.
And myself, aye, so your motion carries. You're all set,
Thank you very much.
okay?
Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good evening. All right, item number 4, Appeal 3908, Verizon Wireless Young Summer.
3906.
Sorry, 3906. The Young Summer LLC, representing Verizon Wireless, is requesting a special permit to co-locate on an existing roof-mounted antenna, which is approved in 1983, or circa 1983, located at the Global Foundries site, 2070 Route 52, Hopewell Junction, pursuant to Section 194-79 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So good evening. We had an opportunity to review this with you last month.
Yes,
In essence, what's been there has been there since 1983. You are replacing some of the antennas that are on there.
adding 3 antennas, exactly.
Okay, so,
Not extending the height of the existing tower in any way.
and what you said, it's because there's greater demand for service at this point, so you just,
Yeah, especially
you have to
that
build up the
facility
capacity.
itself. So it makes it the perfect facility, upon which to put the site,
right, and
So.
Global Foundries really has no residential neighbors.
right?
So it's really just commercial use in that area. So comments or questions from board members?
I'm good.
Nope.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request from Verizon Wireless requesting to co-locate on an existing roof-mounted antenna at the Global Foundry site? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
This is appeal number 3906. Applicant is Orange County Poughkeepsie Limited Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless. Requesting is a special permit to co-locate on an existing roof-mounted antenna which was approved in 1983, located at Global Foundries site 2070 Route 52, Hopewell Junction, pursuant to section 194-79 of the zoning ordinance. Resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Hassan, whereas the applicant has applied for a special permit pursuant to section 194-79 of the town code for the installation of 3 antennas on the existing 49-foot tower located on the top of the existing building on lands owned by Global Foundries US2 LLC, I guess. And whereas the property that is the subject of the application is located at 2070 Route 52, Hopewell Junction, New York 12533, and whereas the applicant will also require the installation of small equipment platform located on the roof as the base of the tower located on the roof of the roof as
You think this stuff is easy to read, huh?
small equipment platform located on the roof as a base, as a base of the tower.
Yeah,
And whereas this is an unlisted action under seeker,
seeker.
and now therefore, as a result of the foregoing, the decision and order of the zoning board of appeals is as follows. 1, this action will not result in the significant adverse environmental impact, and therefore the ZBA issues a negative declaration pursuant to seeker. And 2, this application meets the requirement of section 194-79 of the town code, and whereas the ZBA grants the application for a special permit for the collection of antennas on the existing tower. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals hereby grants above special permit.
Is there a second?
Second?
Votes as follows. Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Rocco?
Aye.
And myself, aye. So your motion
Great.
carries.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
We're all
night.
set. Okay, item number 5, Appeal 3907, Acevedo, Eric Acevedo, 109 South Vacation Drive, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 2-foot variance for a proposed 6-foot fence to be located in the front yard, as well as a variance for a proposed above-ground pool to be located in front of the dwelling pursuant to sections 194-98 and 194-95 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I just looked up and was like, that's not Eric.
No, he's at work.
All right, so we are open for the public hearing. The motion carries to open. So we did have an opportunity to review this application last month.
Great.
Well, I'm presuming, are you the owner?
Yes, I'm the owner.
Okay, you're Mrs. Acevedo.
I am, yes.
So you have a very typical for Hillside Lake, you have a lot that extends from one street to the end, to the
Exactly.
other street, which in fact gives you 2 front yards. We have seen other applications for other pools in Hillside Lake with this kind of condition. In this case, your house is very close to the one side,
Exactly.
which gives you a very extensive backyard.
Yes.
You are not proposing to put the pool close to the back street.
at all.
You're actually proposing to put it essentially right at the end of your deck, at the end of the
Yes.
property, there, at the end of the house there. So it's very close to the property,
Yes.
which gives an extensive backyard, still an extensive distance, not just to the street and any distractions there, but also to the neighbor across the street.
Correct.
All right, so we did have an opportunity to look through this, to review it with you last month. You in fact also, I gather you have young children or pets or something, so you also asked for the 6-foot fence to be able to go
Yes.
around the property, to be able to keep things inside the property.
Yes.
One thing we didn't talk about is whether you're going to put any screening on the outside of the fence along the other street, the other end of the street. Can we put something to break it up? Again, a 6-foot white vinyl fence can be sometimes distracting.
There's not gonna be a fence in the front of the house, no.
Not in
It's-
the front, the other front, it's your other front yard, it's the rear.
Oh, okay.
What you think of as your rear, but it is still a front yard
Yes,
because
yes,
it
it's so
fronts on a street.
confusing.
I know, so we didn't talk about whether there was gonna be any landscaping there.
Landscaping like outside of the fence?
Yes.
You mean? We weren't planning on it, but I mean, if that's required
Know
or if
what the
it's-
stretch is of the property at that point?
I mean, I know we were planning to install the fence 2 feet in from the property line, and.
Well, no, in that case, there's a right-of-way on that other side. It's gotta be more than 2 feet in, 2 feet in from the property
It's-
line, but inside,
Right, exactly.
beyond the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me get to your application here.
There's gonna be a substantial amount of space from the road to like where our fence starts.
All right, Pellegrino, that's this one. All right, so. The survey's not really,
Doesn't really show.
it's not really. Well,
Where the plan shows 2 feet setback, that's referring to the fence all the way around? Is that what you planned?
Well, that's what we were told was required,
for a 6-foot fence, yeah.
yeah.
It appears that the distance from that front line, South Vacation Drive, to the house is about 38 feet. So if you take that, it's actually just a little bit more than double that, so probably 82, 83 feet. That's an extensive amount of white vinyl fence back there. So, I think it's gonna be important to put something to break it up, okay?
Okay.
You don't need the whole thing blocked by any means. That's not what we're asking. We're just asking for some distraction there. Or to distract people from just seeing a whole block of white fence for
Okay.
80-some odd feet.
Okay.
Okay?
Not a problem.
You
I mean,
talk-
our main concern is just being able to enclose our property, you know,
Right,
just from
no.
having our dogs running out into the street, our children for that matter, so there's, you know, we really have no objection to whatever's required or what you guys want.
No,
You
I
just- yeah.
appreciate that. I want to be very clear. This is very different from an application that we had some serious concerns about previously, where the applicant ended up withdrawing it. But in that case, while he had the same sort of condition, the pool that he was proposing was so much closer to
Gotcha.
that street
Yeah.
behind it, East Vacation Drive. In your case, it would have been the similar situation.
Right.
Where frankly, the people who would have heard most the noise coming from that pool would have been the neighbor across the street.
Ah,
You're not
yes.
proposing, so it's a very different
Okay.
situation that you've got here. I just want to be,
You're
Clear
talking
about that.
along the width of the property, you want it to,
Yeah, I mean, the fence that we purchased also, it's a semi-private fence, because we also didn't want to feel enclosed, like we were in a prison either. We actually love having the open land, but because of the children and the dogs, we're fencing it in. It's just a safety protocol, but, so I get it, like if you're saying just a wall of fence,
Yeah,
it's a large amount of fence. You're absolutely right, so.
you're talking about the back width of the property?
yes, along East Vacation Drive there.
I mean, the front, it's 100 feet wide, so it's probably 100 feet in the back.
Is it?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah, there it is.
100
So
by
like,
200.
that means you would have to move it in closer too, so you gotta put obviously your landscaping on the outside of it. So you'd have to come in a couple more feet.
Yeah, just a couple.
Okay.
So
Save you a
maybe-
couple feet of fence.
Well, you know, we already purchased it,
Oh,
you know?
okay.
Yeah, it's been sitting on in our yard for a couple months now.
A couple feet, that just means 4 feet, 4 feet
Yeah, I mean,
extra,
the
won't be a
inspector
big
came
difference.
and said we met all the requirements, we thought it was a go, and then we got the
Yeah.
breaks, and we're like, well,
Okay,
freaking
so
out.
can you give us some sense of what kind of landscaping, what are you gonna propose to put there is really gonna be the question. I mean, I don't think we're looking for something that's only a foot off the ground.
No, sure, you mean like on the outside of the fence, like some,
Right.
like bushes and.
Something
and-
that will start small, but it will grow quickly. I mean, we're
Okay.
not looking for trees, I think it's really shrubs.
Okay.
Something to just, like I
And you-
said, to break it up.
And for that line, you could pick, maybe different things and be a little bit creative, like maybe some arborvitae in one section, maybe something else different, that flowers or something that
Yeah.
looks nice.
Sure.
Pencil bush hollies. They about 12 inches wide, and they'll go up to maybe 4 feet if you let them grow high.
Okay.
Plant those like every 12 inches.
And you're saying, of course, you mean on the outside of the fence, like
Yeah.
towards the, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
It
way,
doesn't have to be a whole line of landscaping all
Right.
width. Make some pockets,
exactly.
you don't have to.
We're not looking for 100 feet of landscape.
No, that sounds
We're just
amazing,
looking to
actually.
have you break up the.
It would be
the s-
nice to have something nice to look at, actually,
Yeah.
on that side.
Any other comments or
Not a
questions from
problem.
board members?
I'm good.
No.
Okay, so, is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request from Eric Acevedo, 109 South Vacation Drive, Wappingers Falls, requesting a 2-foot variance for a proposed 6-foot fence to be located in the front yard, as well as a variance for a proposed above-ground pool to be located in front of the dwelling?
We have a decision.
I don't have one.
No, there is not,
So
because we
gotta
need the
close the
landscape plan.
reserve.
Okay.
If you don't mind,
Oh,
step
sure,
back.
sure.
One of your neighbors wishes to speak.
Hi,
Evening.
good evening, Board. My name is Steve Maffia. I live at 103 South Vacation Drive, 2 doors down from the applicant. I'm neither for or against the project right now, I just have some questions about it.
Okay.
When I got the letter with the description, and it said the pool and fence in the front yard, my engineering logical mind thought it was on the South Vacation Drive side of the
Right.
the property. It sounds like it's, though, on the East Vacation side of the
Well,
property?
it's really still, if you divide the property in half, it's right behind the home is where she's proposing it.
Right. But behind the home, meaning between the structure and East Vacation.
If you divide the property in half, it's in the half that's closer to South Vacation,
But it's in the backyard from your perception, yes.
okay?
Right.
But because the house fronts also on East Vacation, that is also considered a front yard.
Yeah, that was the clarification I didn't.
Yes.
Because I suppose my house fronts on
You
East Vacation
probably have the
as well.
same,
And I never
type of
thought of
lot.
it that way.
Yeah.
And all of the other houses that stretch between those two, the front yard, what I think is the front yard or the driveway and the front door is on East Vacation. Some of them are on, like mine on South Vacation Drive.
Some other properties in Hillside Lakes, some actually use what you would consider your back. They actually have garages and other things that come off that second
Yeah, yeah. I
roadway.
mean, the northern half of South Vacation, on the side between East and South Vacation, what you see is basically the backyards and sheds of the houses whose front doors and driveways are on East Vacation Drive.
Right.
As far as the fencing is concerned, we talked about it being 80 feet, or I think the width of the lot is 100 feet. Will there be any fencing along the side yards?
Yes.
Side?
She is proposing fencing alongside
Okay,
your.
so on both north and south sides? Is that the entire 200-foot length, or is it?
You're not proposing it beyond the front line of your home, right? Yeah. So on East Vacation, it will stop at the front line of the home.
I see. And it's a 6-foot white vinyl fence?
Sorry, on South Vacation. Oh, my God.
No,
On
I'm
South
clarified on it.
Vacation, where the front of her home is located,
Yes.
it will stop at the front line of the home.
At the front line of the home?
It'll stop at the driveway, like with the garage. It's not even coming to the front.
So it's not, okay, so it's, on that side, it's the rear, but on the other side, it's further up.
Yeah.
That's what the line that you've drawn on here. Well,
Yeah, we're stopping.
somebody drew on here.
Yeah, it's so confusing.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not, if for sight distance, it's not going to block anybody pulling out of the driveway or anybody driving by. It will not block sight distance on the South Vacation Drive.
But essentially, if I looked across my neighbor's backyard, who doesn't have any fencing, from my backyard, I'll see a fence on the applicant's side yard. Probably wouldn't even see the pool at this point,
Correct.
Right,
which is fine, okay.
okay.
So I'm not against the project, then.
That's fine, thank you. Thank you for coming. If you don't mind signing in, please, if, there's a clipboard on that table over there.
Just print your name, please.
Anybody else? So, this is one, I think we'd like to see that big landscape plan, right?
I think we should see some sort of landscape plan that you can
Yeah,
submit
if
to
we-
Pam ahead of next meeting.
Again, just show us something what you're thinking of. It's just, as we've said before, it's a large expanse there.
And
so.
now, would this just be for the fence? Would we be able to go forward with the pool at least, or how would that work? Because I know it's for both things.
Yeah, we don't have a
Okay.
decision prepared because we really were discussing the fact that it was such a broad expanse.
Okay.
All right?
And do you have a updated survey, or this is the best survey you have?
That's not even the survey, no. We had,
Right, that's what I have.
This is what was submitted.
yeah,
Do you have a better survey? Because that would help us.
I believe so, yeah. That doesn't look like the
So
survey,
can
the current
you,
survey we
provide
have.
the town with our zoning clerk with the updated survey? And on the updated survey, you can draw the fence that you're putting, or you have your architect do it. And then on that same, you can put down where you're proposing some shrubbery, so that we can have I can just say, okay, they're gonna have 10 of these plants, or 7 of them, or whatever the
Yeah, whatever it is.
comes out to be, like, like clusters of plants, so that the reason we are trying to do is to sort of break the fence, instead of having a 100-foot fence, it looks like sections of fence with greenery or something in front of it.
Okay.
So that's the whole idea. But again, so I guess we don't have all the information to make a decision today, so we'll have to come back next month. So what I'm proposing is to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene next month with all the additional
Okay,
information.
just hold on one second.
Okay.
You can submit what you're proposing for the landscape plan ahead of time, and then we can be prepared at the next meeting to issue the decision? All right, that
Okay.
would really be helpful if we could see that ahead of time, as opposed to us seeing it for the first time. Your neighbors still would have an opportunity to comment on it, all right?
Okay.
But at least it gives us a chance to be able to work with you that evening to say, yeah, this is good, or, okay, let's tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, because obviously our concern was also that it's the summer, and if now we're waiting till July.
You can't plant it now, yeah, you're not gonna plant in July, no question. Oh, you
yeah.
wanna get the pool up, that's what your point
Yeah,
is.
that's why she wants a decision tonight.
Let's start using the backyard.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I said, when we got the inspection, everything was good. We purchased everything. Everything is ready. It's,
Oh,
Well, we can't tell you to do it.
no. Yeah.
I hear you.
I mean, had I known, I would have came with landscaping. I mean, honestly.
We didn't think about the fact that it was gonna be 80 to 100 feet of white fence, so we should have brought it up too.
We don't have a decision written up anyway. so-
Yeah, we're just not prepared to deal with this, so
Okay.
July 24th, you can pull a permit.
Alrighty.
But again, just work with our building department and our town's clerk, and then they can guide you, come back tomorrow or the next day and say, okay, this is what I have, what more? And they'll be extremely helpful to give you ideas and suggestions, and then you can go back and talk to your architect or anybody else to tweak it, and we need at least a few weeks to kind of look at it.
Okay.
Understand, Hillside Lake is very unique lots out there because you stretch from one street to another.
Right.
Pools are not something that's required by any means. It's recreation, it's something, but they also generate noise. And so we have to be really careful as we review these, especially technically in a front yard, making sure we're not, everybody can't come in and just get it because they want one.
Yeah.
That's why in your case, we're seeing the reason for it, we're seeing it works where you're proposing it. That's why we're just being extra careful on it.
Okay.
All right, so with that said, do I have a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn? Because there's no other neighbors that wanted to speak?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, so
until
motion to
July-
adjourn to the July meeting?
Next meeting.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we'll see you next month.
All right, thank you.
Please change the date on your sign.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Appeal 3908 Saludo, John Saludo and Carolyn Monk, 48 Sandy Pines Boulevard, Hopewell Junction, are requesting a 5-foot sideline variance for an existing 188-square-foot gazebo/shed pursuant to Section 194-107B of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good evening.
Good evening.
So we had an opportunity to look at this last month, and you actually have a unique shed or gazebo, or what, that actually kind of functions both within the same structure. It's very close to your pool. It's, you have a second shed, but you agreed that you were going to move that in.
Yes, we're removing that.
You have not moved it yet?
No, we're taking it down.
Oh, you're actually
Yep,
just.
we're just taking it down.
Okay,
Yep.
that's even better. But again, because of the gazebo really functions in conjunction with the pool,
Right.
and the shed's just, access to that is on the other
Just to
side.
store the pool equipment
Yeah.
and
So it's not
chairs
exactly a
and stuff.
structure that you can move, and it's been there for,
8 years, 9 years?
it's been there for a reasonable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It blends in with your property. So any questions or comments from board members?
I'm good.
We did get a picture of it, which you were able to see last month, so it's in the file if anybody needed to see it. So is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request from John Saludo and Carolyn Monk, 48 Sandy Pines Boulevard, requesting a 5-foot variance for an existing 188-square-foot gazebo/shed? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Did I open this public hearing?
Yes.
I did, okay, I didn't write it down. So, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Want to read it?
Sure.
You have it? Okay.
By the time I find it.
Okay.
Appeal number 3908, applicant John Saludo and Carolyn Monk. Thank you. 5-foot sideline variance for an existing 188-square-foot gazebo/shed pursuant to Section 194-107B3 of the zoning ordinance. The location's at 48 Sandy Pines Boulevard, zoning district R1. Resolution offered by zoning board member Rocco Limatone. Whereas the applicant has applied for the above stated variance and a 5-foot sideline variance for an existing 188-square-foot gazebo shed pursuant to Section 194-107B3 of the zoning ordinance. And whereas this action is a Type 2 action under SEQR and no further action is required. Whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals moves to adopt this standard decision and order and finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, as the shed gazebo is finished in the same decor as the house and blends in with the landscaping and pool area. The desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as this structure is already existing and is too heavy to move. In addition, the applicants have additional shed on their property, which is located 10 feet from the side property line, and they have agreed to move it and 5 feet in order to meet the required 15-foot sideline setbacks.
Actually,
So we're going to take it down.
Yeah, so let's amend that.
just put RE in front of move, agree to remove it.
Yeah, just remove it.
And they have agreed to remove the 5 he shed, so they don't need to meet the required 15-foot sideline setbacks. Thank you. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants the above stated variance.
Is there a second?
Resolution, second by?
Is there
Aziz, me.
Second.
Second.
Votes as follows: Jim,
Aye.
Aziz,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Rocco,
Aye.
and myself, aye. Your motion carries.
Thank you.
Wow, we
Have a
are
nice
just
evening.
falling apart this evening.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. All right, item number 7, Appeal 3909, LMD Homes. LMD Homes is requesting a special permit to import an additional 300 cubic yards of fill with regard to the construction of a dwelling located at 470 Shenandoah Road, Hopewell Junction, pursuant to Section 194-75. Good evening.
Good evening.
Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, as we said last time, in reviewing your request, there's, let me state for the record,
Sure.
that there is a limit based on code of any property owner with a permit can bring in 375 cubic yards of fill in any given year.
Right.
You are requesting to bring in an additional 300 cubic yards to be able to make the fit of the house and backyard better for this property. You can actually do it within your existing site, but it would require that you take down trees. Nobody wants to encourage you to take down any trees.
Right.
So even though you promised us you would not need any variances for this, in this
Back.
case, you're looking for a special permit
Correct.
to save the environment.
Yes.
So we're going to work with you. Are there any comments or questions from board members?
No, I'm good.
Thank you for the guidance up front about saving the trees, so.
I drive by the record, it looks like it's progressing well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So are there any comments or questions from board members, from the public regarding the request from L&D Homes requesting a special permit to import an additional 300 cubic yards of fill for the construction of a dwelling at 470 Shenandoah Road?
I'm new to the area, so I'm just a little curious about what's considered acceptable fill.
Acceptable fill?
Yeah.
Okay, there are limits on what they can accept. They can't have construction debris and other thing with other,
So dump loads of broken concrete and cinder block is acceptable?
no?
No, that's what they did in the front of their house. And then they covered it with about 1 or 2 feet of dirt.
Okay. Do you want to comment on that for us, or?
Excuse me, you just address the board, we will ask the applicant.
Yeah, we're gonna,
Yeah, so we're gonna ask the applicant, so, okay, can you,
Yeah, sure. I haven't been by the site, so I don't know,
Okay.
Yeah,
okay, so can you look at the trucker's invoice, or whoever is bringing the fill, to see what loads they're bringing?
sure.
Because this is a.
And maybe we need more oversight if we're gonna grant this.
let's go back to the building department first and just say, have we had any review of any of the receipts related to the fill that's already been brought on the site? Okay,
They've already brought in probably 20 dump loads. 3 feet, the entire front of the property, there's about 3 feet of broken concrete and cinder blocks covered by about 2 feet of soil. And the property is so high now that any heavy rain, it's gonna run right off into the driveways on both sides of the house, on the other properties.
okay. It sounds like the building department needs to do a site
We'll have
visit.
silt fence up for that.
Pardon me?
There's a silt fence up until the grass grows, and then the grass should stabilize it, so it should not,
Yeah, but it's sloped like this, 3 feet, it's already at least 3 feet higher than my mother's driveway. And the property on the other side is even lower.
why did you need to bring it up so high? Is the septic in the front?
Septic's in the back. I don't know if you.
And we
Yeah,
were,
please,
we
if
were
we-
told that, I don't know if the town, the board, somebody told him to bring in the fill, but there's so much fill in the front of the house, in the front part of the property now, that it's, almost, 3 to 5 feet higher than the neighboring properties.
Okay. If you don't mind, step back just a minute. You can come back, but I just want to ask. why was fill needed in the front yard?
So fill is needed in the front yard. When they first drew up the plan, they were thinking that they would be able to get down to the home by kind of having a driveway that would be longer and be able to reduce the grade in that sense.
Right.
Where I think there's a utility pole and where the water where the water's located, they weren't able to create kind of one of those serpentine driveways, so they had to come in straight.
Okay.
Because of that, they are at the maximum, I think what I was told is that they're at the maximum grade change. So coming off the road, they couldn't go any steeper, and then so it comes in at a certain grade, I don't know what the code is, and then it gets a little steeper, I think it hits the maximum that they can, I believe, and then it has to flatten out by the house again. So they tried to work with the grade as much as possible, but because of the house and the road and coming in, so there's the
So
road.
We can't have a driveway that exceeds 10% grade? Yeah, so that's what you're talking about. So the
Right.
driveway itself is where you're having the issue with the grade, because you could not do what you originally anticipated, which was,
It would have looked great to have done that, and I would have liked it from a sales standpoint in multiple reasons, but it wasn't achievable. And so
Okay.
then I think, given the grade of the house, the grade of the street, and how it's situated, that's what they were able to do.
I wonder if we need some plans to see what the gradient is off to the side of the property. You don't have any kind of,
I believe on what was provided, the survey, or the plot plan should show the proposed grade.
and so the grade itself and what you've got there, it is grass, it's collecting, it's keeping its own water, it's not running off down there and onto the neighbor's driveway or anything like that?
So on the plot plan, it should be showing where the silt fence is located. So then if there is sediment coming from, it's not stable right now, or it's not stabilized right now because they're bringing in fill. And so it hasn't been stabilized. Once all this topsoil spread, then it'll be stabilized, the silt fence will come out, and then water, I don't know the site well enough to know if it will. I don't know. I don't know as far as the water, but then I do know that we wouldn't be able to be building if there weren't silt fence up.
Okay, but we're also concerned about the type of fill that you're bringing in.
Sure.
Okay, so I think we're gonna need to see some records related to the fill that's
Sure.
come in.
So what's requested?
Rick, I'd actually like the building department to review the records, have him between now and the next meeting, bring the records, your slips from the truck deliveries.
Sure.
For the fill that's
I'll
come
see.
in, have the building department review it to be sure and, that it's appropriate material. You may have to, there's machines out there, I'm sure, so they may have to do a test pit for you, so you can actually see, in fact, that, maybe if you're saying it's not stable, grass hasn't grown yet, then you should be able to dig a couple test pits and be able to show the building department that, in fact, the fill is appropriate.
So I'll put in all those requests and
Yes,
Okay,
please.
great.
All right, so.
Anything
I mean,
else?
again, it makes sense to not cut down trees.
Sure.
And have you bring a little bit more fill, but everybody wants to be sure it's clean, appropriate fill.
Absolutely.
For a residential use.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah.
so,
I don't know.
I'm going to ask you, thank you. I'm going to ask you to step away, and are there
I'm just
any?
not sure I understand the reason for the slope not being accurate when the two neighboring properties have the exact same slope.
When were the neighboring houses built? It could be that it was before zoning.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Does
something like that.
does your mother have a steep driveway?
Sorry?
Does your mother have a steep driveway?
I don't
Again,
know,
the thing is, when was the house built that?
Yeah, it was,
When was the house built?
1980 something? When was the house built? 1980s.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
that was after zoning.
yeah, but again,
When?
they changed it,
1976, okay.
so maybe it was before all the requirements came in, so.
yeah, it was. The driveway gradients changed more recently since
And
I've
again, the
been on
thing is,
board.
each lot is different as far as the terrain is concerned, so maybe your house did not have those restrictions because they wanted to make a curved driveway, and they can't make a curved driveway. The original plan was to have a curved driveway. They can't, so they have to go straight driveway now. And in order to go with a straight driveway, they have to raise they have to bring in fill, and they're allowed 375 cubic yards of fill per year. So if they were going to do it for the next 3 years, they can keep bringing in, but they're limited to 375 cubic yards.
Right.
But they just wanted to get it done in one go, so that's why they're asking for a building permit, so that they can. Special permit, so that they can do it in one set.
Where's the fill gonna go? Is
Okay,
this more fill for the front of the house?
You're asking questions of us, and then we'll direct him if
Yeah,
it's
you have to
appropriate.
Well, I'm curious, okay,
ahead.
so this 300 cubic feet, where's the fill gonna go? More in front of the house, or is this
we can
in the
ask him.
back?
And may I ask, before we do that, which side, if you're looking at the front of the houses on Shenandoah, which side is your mom on, the left of the construction?
Left side.
Because, I mean, maybe, because we can address this too, when I look at that, it seems to be the total grade change will be just 6 feet. This is small, I don't have reading glasses with me, it looks like it starts at 498 feet elevation, and you're going down to 494,
Or 92, depending on.
493, so you're talking about a 5-foot, if I understand this, gradient, that's it on that side? And you feel already it's how much the height
sorry?
difference? What do you think the height difference is already on that side?
Between 3 and 5 feet. At the front of the house, like I said, it slopes down to the side.
That's what they indicate that, I think the total will be on the site plan, just so those two facts can be addressed, I guess, when it comes up.
And so what are you doing to prevent the water runoff? Did you address that yet?
They have silt fence up.
Okay.
And then when it's grass, that will absorb it.
Sure. And I'd be happy to address the board's and also the gentleman's question.
If you don't mind, if you could print your name on there, thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, as far as the water currently, the silt fence should be blocking it, but
Right.
then water in the future, so I wish I were an engineer and I could describe all of this better, but I know when they build in other locations in Dutchess County, the responsibility for the water, once it's stabilized, is still for the home. And so it shouldn't be impacting the neighbor.
Right.
Water shouldn't be running onto the neighbor. So what they do is either there'll be some type of swale, whether it's a bump swale, so I don't know exactly based on the plot plan but if you do look on both sides, you see that there is a swale training that water to go towards the rear of the property. So it would be handled by this piece of property rather than become their burden.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if there was another
And
question
another
that he
question
didn't
was,
answer. Yeah.
you're bringing total of 375 that you're allowed.
Right.
And then you're bringing another 300 cubic yards of fill on top of it. So in total, you're bringing 675 cubic yards of dirt. So where are you spreading it? All in the front, back, or all over the property?
The bulk of it would be, so the front, I'd say 50% of the property is where there's going to be it would mostly be the first third of the property, the front third of the property.
Let me ask the question in a slightly different way.
Sure.
On the left that the gentleman's concerned about, is that mostly completely filled already, and you need more to one side? I don't really look that close when I drive by it.
Right.
I've driven by it several times. But it seems like you put more over to the center and left already. Is that a correct impression by me, or are you gonna be raising the whole front end even more?
So I haven't driven past it.
Okay.
So I apologize that I'm not better informed. What I do know is that they wanted to get in, from what I've heard in conversation, is that to have enough fill so that the trucks and machinery could get in to do the work while we were waiting to figure out whether this special use permit would be granted or not. So it makes sense that probably more is on the left than it probably is left heavy right now compared to what it'll eventually be, but I don't really know.
That was my impression. I don't know if it's correct that they filled in to make it as level as possible directly to the house from the road
Right.
get the materials in after they put the foundation in.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if that helps address.
It seems like it's just getting raised higher and higher. As they put
Yeah.
in more fill, and the neighbor's already concerned
Well,
with the height.
well, that's my impression, though, is the center and left is pretty much close maybe to the height, and they need more on the right, but I don't know if that's correct.
Yeah, my mother just wanted to say that the properties were all level, although I think there was some slope. So it is, like you said, it is more left-centric now, which is going to make it even worse on the other side, actually, because it's already, the other property, if you look at her driveway, it's quite a bit lower.
That's steep, yeah.
I think I'd be concerned with the drainage.
Again, I'm still concerned if,
Everything's
you know, if they're going to
drained
bring more fill into the front of the property.
It's already run through your garage? The water is already, so the silt fence is not controlling it. So building department needs to go out and make sure the appropriate erosion control measures are in place. All right, you should not be getting water, so if you do get it, there is additional water that goes in mom's garage, she should call the building department and they can have somebody go out and make sure you should make sure your builder is well aware of the fact that he is.
Relay the information.
Please.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay.
If I could also add that none of this request is to change the approved plot plan. So that it's not an attempt to modify what's already been approved. So that would be one piece.
Who approved a plot plan? We didn't approve a plot plan.
Or I don't know the proper terminology, I apologize. So as far as the.
All you originally got from us was a
No,
permit
not-
for, or the approval for the undersized lot. So you would have gone to
Absolutely.
the building department to get your building permit.
Correct. So.
You filed a building permit with the building department,
Correct.
and you are following that building permit.
Correct, and I guess what I'm adding is with the building department, in obtaining the building permit, it was required to submit a plot plan showing the final grade.
Okay.
And so there's no request as part of this to,
To alter that.
yes,
Oh, I
and
see.
we're
You're
sticking
saying-
to,
I'm sorry.
right, go
If
ahead.
I understand you correct, you're saying the elevations are staying the same, you're just not taking it from the back of the property.
Yeah, we're,
You want to bring in
It's-
fill as
yeah,
opposed to.
the only request is whether the source of the material is from the rear of the lot, or if it's off-site.
Correct. Thank you for clarifying that. For the record, we had this conversation, and the applicant initially wanted to dig up their backyard to make this fill, so they are entitled to cut down trees, pick up the fill from the back,
Right.
and bring into the front and get the level that they need, which we approved. Now what they're saying is they want to be environmentally friendly, and so they're saying we don't want to cut the trees. So if we don't cut the trees, then we need that soil. And where do we get the soil? We have to come up from the front, or we can do it 375 in 2019, and another 375 in about 6 months, which will be in 2020. We will not need this permit. So they don't need this permit if they delay this. The first fill, they can fill right now. They can do the second fill January of next year. They will not need this permit. Is that right?
Correct, and if I could add also that part of the discussion, one, it's in terms of preserving trees. Two, it's in terms of, so another location where we build towards the rear of the lots, there's something called conservation easement. So it's a nice thing as far as greenery for the neighborhood and the neighboring lots. So part of the thinking was maintaining some of that greenery. And if we were the neighbors, we'd like to be a good neighbor. And so thinking in that sense too, that was part of the decision-making.
Sure.
Thank you.
Seems.
I just heard something I wasn't aware of, but the soil from the back and where the house was when they leveled it and stuff like that, some of that was actually trucked away. It wasn't used to fill the front. And there's still a big pile there behind the house.
What do you mean, they excavated for the foundation? When they excavated for the foundation, they took some of that topsoil?
And there's still a big pile behind the house, and I could see where they would want to fill it in, because it is lower, you know, and they cut down all the trees and stuff like that. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that, other than what they bring in to fill.
Right.
Right, the broken concrete and stuff that they put in the front. If I was the buyer and I tried to dig a hole to plant a tree or something like that, he's in for a rude surprise.
Yeah.
So we'll have that checked out. Yes, go ahead.
So if the board wants me to speak into the top, so the
Yeah,
topsoil.
it was topsoil that was probably,
They scraped the
way it's-
topsoil.
it's sitting in the
and
back of the
they
pile, so you can put it
stockpile
back on top.
And they might have
but the
taken a load or
surplus
two.
was probably
Correct,
removed and sold off.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens all the time.
They always do that.
Yeah, okay. All right, so you're going to get us some information in the meeting, between now and the next meeting, because we're not gonna approve this tonight. So between now and the next meeting, you're gonna get the information to the building department so that they can in fact review the materials that were delivered.
Okay.
Go out and see a couple test pits, if whatever they determine that they need to make
Okay.
sure that the fill that's there is appropriate. And they will, and they're gonna check the erosion control measures to make sure that the neighbor is not getting any water into her garage. And going forward, if it happens again, you know now to call the building department, okay? All right, so we will see you next month.
Very good, thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Well, hold on, is there anybody else who wishes to speak before I close this, just in case there's anything else we need to find out?
Can you just provide us your name, please, and your mother's name on the record? I know you wrote it down.
My name is Michael Matika. My mother's name is Teresia.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
you print it so that we have?
She
it?
did already.
Did
You
already.
already-
I signed it.
He did that, he just
Okay.
never mentioned it out loud. So with that, I would make a motion to adjourn to our next month's meeting.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we'll see you next month.
So then, just to clarify, I work with the building department
Yes,
ahead of
please.
time as soon as possible.
Yes.
And then from there, we'll meet here. Very good, thank you.
All right. All right, our last public hearing of the evening, good night, is item number 8, Appeal 3910, Beaushore, Richard Beaushore. Sorry, I was distracted there. 88 Stormville Road, Hopewell Junction is requesting a 15-foot front line variance for a proposed 30-foot by 34-foot attached garage and a 47-foot front line variance for a pre-existing, yeah, it is, okay, just say it, for a pre-existing 25 by 22-foot detached garage, which was built in 1950 pursuant to sections 194-17 and 194-121 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I'm thinking in my head what your property looks like, and I'm saying, wait a second, there's the garage off all the way onto the side, but you're actually, so let's start. You have an existing home that goes around a lot, so you in fact have 2 front yards just by the virtue of all that frontage that you have. The existing garage that's way off to the side, it's 2-car garage or thereabouts, has its own curb cut, but it's, as we said, it's really quite removed from the home itself. You use it, it's an active garage. But now you would actually like to have a garage actually connected to your home, attached to it, where you would have a more functional use of your garage with your home.
And also balance off the house.
That was gonna be the second part of it. It would be more aesthetically balancing the look of the house. You do have a second curb cut right now to the left of your house.
Right, which I'll
That
do.
takes you to a barn in the back.
Right.
Which you agreed at the last meeting.
Yep.
You're gonna actually scarify that, plant some grass seed there.
Right.
It will not, you can still use it,
Right.
but not as a regular curb cut, but you can certainly get to the barn in the back.
Right.
You will then, Highway Department has already reviewed this, you'll be able to get a second curb cut to be able to use this functional driveway to be able to get to the garage you now propose to put on the right side of the house.
We can make my wife very happy.
And again, the look of it, you provided us pictures, you had a nice, complete application for us to see that what you're proposing just really, it's gonna make the house look so much nicer.
I hope so, great.
Yeah, so comments or questions from board members?
I'm good.
None for me.
I'm good.
So is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request from Richard Beaushore, 88 Stormville Road, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 15-foot front line variance for a proposed 30-foot by 34-foot attached garage and a 47-foot front line variance for a pre-existing 26-foot by 22-foot detached garage? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mary?
Oh, sure. This
You're not
is,
gonna let me do it? Okay.
this is appeal number 3910 for Richard Boshure. It's for a 15-foot front line variance for a proposed 30 by 34-foot attached garage and a 47-foot front line variance for a pre-existing 26 by 22-foot detached garage, which was built in 1950 pursuant to sections 194-17 and 194-121 of the zoning ordinance. It's located at 88 Stormville Road in Hopewell Junction. Resolution offered by zoning board member Mary Seminara. Whereas the applicant has applied for the above stated variances, and whereas this action is a type 2 action under seeker and no further action is required, and whereas the zoning board of appeals moves to adopt their standard decision and order and finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, as the property has a large front yard area as a result of being on the curve of a road. The existing garage was built in 1950 before zoning was in place, and the addition to the home will add a symmetric look to this older home. The desired result cannot be achieved by some other means, as placing the addition on the other side of the home would block access to the barn further back on the property. The variance requested is not substantial. The proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions, as the existing garage and its driveway are pre-existing and seldom used, and the location of the curb cut for the proposed driveway has been reviewed and approved by the highway superintendent, with the agreement that the applicant will abandon the curb cut for the barn. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals hereby grants the above stated variances.
Is there a second?
Second.
So votes as follows. Jim?
Aye.
Aziz?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Rocco?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Your motion carries. You're all set. Now you'll deal with the building department.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Okay?
night.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening. All right, folks, so that was the last of the public hearings. So now we are getting to the reviews, and again, you see, you will see how much we'll go through your review, because in many cases, this is the first time we're seeing your application. The first couple are older appeals, so this is, we'll be trying to finish those up so we can schedule them for a public hearing that then would run fairly smoothly. So with that said, item number 9, Appeal 3872 Slow Shower. Eddie A. Slow Shower, 40 Brandy Lane, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 4-foot height variance for 38 feet of existing 8-foot lattice fencing, which is in front of the dwelling, a 4-foot height variance for 115 linear feet of existing 8-foot high lattice fencing, as well as a 2-foot setback variance for all fencing pursuant to section 194-98 of the zoning ordinance. So we're not opening a public hearing. You are back before us. It's been many, many, many months.
How is everybody? Good?
As you know, the town board has now approved the shed and fence amnesty,
Correct.
which limits fences to 6
feet.
feet.
Correct.
So,
So
what are you
my-
proposing?
I would like to make a change from the 4-foot to the maximum of 6 feet that's allowable.
Okay? So what, 6 feet is going to be a decorative fence? That's
I was gonna
what's
leave the
allowed by the
lattice. I was
code.
going to cut the lattice down to 6 feet from the existing 8 feet that's already there.
Okay, just because we haven't seen this in a while, and we do have a new board member, in our previous discussions about your fence, you yourself mentioned that when you touch it, it crumbles. So you're gonna be replacing
I'm gonna
pieces of the
replacing-
fence?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll be bringing it, I'll be bringing it down to 6 feet.
Okay, are you gonna be right now, the lattice goes side to side the long way, and there's not terrific support, if I can say that, some of the fences, and partly because it's older, you said it was there when you bought the property.
Right.
So it's kind of leaning in some,
I'm going to fix whatever needs to be fixed.
okay, well, what I was questioning was if you're
Well,
gonna.
a couple of the posts, somebody was cockeyed Jenny, is not 100% straight, and I don't know if they did it that way, but as I had mentioned in the very beginning, there used to be a row of huge pine trees that covered the fence. I took those down over time. The pine trees grew. It might have pushed onto the posts, so
Okay.
it's not exactly straight. There's a couple of, and then it kind of that way, and then comes back.
Okay,
So
so
I'm
as
going to
you-
remove the damage and replace.
That's what,
And fix it.
seriously, that's what as you know, your fence, it leans and it's old, et cetera. So as
Exactly.
you replace the
I'm
pieces
going
of it,
to, right,
you'll make sure there's appropriate support so that it's.
correct.
Good.
If I have to
That's-
replace a post, I will replace a post. If the post is in good shape, I'm just going to replace the lattice and any of the other framing pieces that are, you know,
Okay,
damaged.
and so the question still remains that about the 2 feet off the property line. Yours, again, we know you didn't install it, so
Right.
that it's not something that, it's something you bought, the property was in that manner. But it does limit your ability to maintain it from the outside, the fact that it's on the property line. That's one of the reasons for the town insisting on it being 2 feet in. So
Right.
as you're moving it, you're
But
not,
also remember, just to refresh everybody, there is a town right-of-way that goes
Drainage
down for
easement.
the drainage easement on
Right.
both sides of the property.
right,
So
which it should not really be in that drainage easement, but a fence can be removed. if
there, it
needs
was,
to be.
it was,
No, I know, I'm making it clear. Your fence was there, it was pre-existing
there.
when you bought the house. So
Right.
you did not install it,
I did
okay? And my sense is you're not gonna wholesale replace it where you could actually, in fact, move it in the 2 feet. You're just gonna be replacing the pieces as they need to be and cutting it down to the 6 feet.
I'm cutting the whole thing down. Anything that's 8 feet, based on the amnesty rule, okay, I was told that's not acceptable. 6 feet is the maximum. So anything that's 8 feet, I have to take down to 6 feet, which is what I was gonna do.
Okay.
I thought about the 4 feet, but there's a couple of pieces that I took out. It's like up to here, it just doesn't look good. So at least, I'm 6 feet tall, so it's just aesthetically, it looks better at 6 than it does at 4. And if 6 is the maximum, then that's what I would ask for the board to consider.
So you don't have a plan as far as what sections of the fence you're replacing? You just are saying you're gonna make...
Well, everything. Whatever is damaged,
He's
I'm
gotta
replacing.
cut down the,
Okay.
all
8
the
feet,
8
it's gonna
feet
come down to
6.
6.
Okay.
So I'm
And then-
replacing I'm replacing the 4-foot lattice, and I'm gonna add a 2-foot lattice.
Okay, because here you had all of these other locations, so basically...
Anywhere that there's lattice is
Because he's
being
not
come
allowed
down.
8-foot fence anywhere.
I'm not allowed 8 foot anywhere, so anywhere that is 8-foot lattice, I'm going to bring it down to 6 feet.
Okay, so are we going to be, when we are advertising, are we going to change
Yes.
That's my request, from 4 feet to 6 feet.
No, from 8 feet
I'm
to
sorry,
6 feet.
From, excuse me, from 8 feet to 6 feet, yeah.
Correct, yeah,
Correct.
because that's the only thing that you're requesting, actually.
Well, actually,
Well, no,
does
because
he,
Does he need to?
does he still need it at all?
Yeah. If he's just gonna do it, isn't the process?
Some
he
of,
just-
some of the fencing is in front of the front line of your home, along
there's
your
3,
driveway.
the driveway side, there's,
That's
3.
what he needs a variance for.
There's 4 sections. 3 sections go beyond where the garage, so it comes out beyond the frontage of the house.
Eddie, if you don't need those 3 sections, you don't need us.
What about the 2 feet
Oh, the 2
setback?
feet in, never mind, you need
But then I
us.
have the 2 feet in for the rest
Yeah,
going
you need
down,
us.
and then
Okay, I was trying to
my
make it easier for
neighbors,
you.
but then where the neighbor's garage and my garage, whoever originally put it up as a kind of a black barrier
Understood.
between the neighbors, so you don't see each other's business going.
You need us.
And I have a little garden area on one side, and they have a little garden area on the other side, so then,
So nobody maintains the fence,
well,
without
I
stepping
don't.
in people's gardens.
right.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna change you're not requesting the height variance except in the front line of the house,
Correct.
but we still need the
2 foot
2-foot variance for all fencing.
setback for the fences around
Now,
on both
the
sides of the house.
survey, Aziz has it opened here, and it did remind me that your fence goes beyond your property line in the back. Did you?
We did discuss that, and I did mention that the chicken wire that was there
Right.
when the prior highway superintendent dug out the gully and put in the drainage, he took the fence down.
Okay.
And then put the fence back up
Oh.
based on where we are in terms of the survey.
Where it was, or where it was
Well,
supposed to
Where
be?
the survey, based on the survey.
Oh.
Also, you have to also
Well, 'cause the
remember,
sur- You're right, the survey you gave us was from when you bought your house, so it's not,
originally I gave you the old one, and then I gave you an
This
updated
is
one
from
when I bought the house.
2003, the survey that I have is 2003.
That's the one, right, when I purchased the house.
Okay.
have
He
you
came
had a
in
subsequent
He came in
survey
3
done?
years after, 2 or 3 years after, and put in the new drainage and dug out the gully and put the fence back.
So do you have a newer survey than 2003?
I do not have another survey after
Okay,
2003.
Because right now you are not in compliance because you have I mean,
Well, that whole thing falls off, where the fence is,
In
it
the
falls
back.
off in the back, into the gully.
So when he
He
dug
dug-
out, he moved the fence into your property?
No,
Yes.
into the
He
neighbor's
moved-
property.
No,
No. Hold
he
on.
moved the fence this way.
Towards you.
the house.
Towards you.
He dug, you know,
He made a swale.
right, he made this, he cleared everything
Are
out.
there any pins in the ground or monuments in the ground back there, anything back there to show you where your property line is back there?
On one, you can't get to it. It's impossible. I mean, originally, when I had the house surveyed in 2003, the surveyor went down there and did over time between just the growth of everything back there, and then when he came out and just dug everything out, because there is a dry well in the back there, it's impossible to get to.
And what kind of fence is this?
It's the 4-foot
Chicken
green chicken wire fence in the back. It's
chicken
not a
wire.
permanent,
That's not something you even talking about for your variance.
no.
This is nothing
Because
to
it's
do
4
with,
feet.
It's staked in.
other than its potential,
Well, no, we're just noticing that it goes off his property. We can't.
except he says it's moved since then.
Part of my property actually goes into the gully and then comes back out of the gully, if you look. And if you look in the top right, on the right-hand side of the property line goes off into the gully at an angle.
Did the amnesty cover 4-foot fences that may extend beyond the property line? I don't think
I
so.
can't even tell you what, I
fences,
can't even tell you
off
what
the
the
property
property line is because the fence is here and then it drops right off into the gully.
So your guess is 2005 or 2006, the town replaced that
Well,
fencing?
Doug ran the new drainage that was halfway down the property line, all the way in from the street. He dug the trench out, he built a retaining wall at the end to separate,
But
and
they
put the fence back
restored
up.
the fence based on on their survey of the
I had-
land.
That's,
Okay.
I'm,
The chain link dog kennel still there?
oh, I ripped, that's all gone. All that stuff is gone, all that is gone. Ripped out the chain link fence, part of the tree fell, took out the fence that was on the side that I ended up fixing years ago.
And
I
this is
do-
showing the wire fence all the way around. You don't have that anymore?
The wire fence is just all the way in the back.
Because this survey shows it all the way around.
That's when the kennel was there.
That's what I'm
The guy
saying.
had a kennel, and then he had a wired fence in the corner.
This survey's irrelevant as far as the wire fence.
Right.
So
And
I'm
if,
not- I'm
I
not
hate to say it, but if the town put the fence where they put it, I can't hold it against him.
Yeah.
So I think we're
I-
just
I
gonna.
don't-
I mean, there we, I mean, again, I moved, I had an issue with the
No,
water
no,
runoff.
we get it, so,
It's
if
not
the
a
town
concern.
installed the fence, we can't, the town put it where the town felt it belonged, okay? So we're gonna leave that alone.
Okay.
Okay, so do I have a motion to advertise,
As amended.
updated as amended, thank you.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So, okay for public hearing. Pam will give you your information on your sign, and we'll see you next month.
Yep, I'll stop in tomorrow to take care of that. Okay, Pam, thank you.
All right, item
right,
number
thank you, everybody.
10, good night, Appeal 3896, Gunther Cottrell, 110 Van Vlack Road, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 1,600 square foot variance for an existing 40-foot by 40-foot detached garage pursuant to Section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance. We do not see Mr. Cottrell, and he was not present last month, although we did get an email after the fact from his attorney. So, do I have a motion from the board to direct the clerk to send Mr. Cottrell a letter that we probably need to see him at this point?
Didn't we send it last time? We did.
Yeah, but we did get it, we actually did get a letter from, there was an email from his attorney that because of the holiday, might have been delivered a little bit
Oh, okay.
late or
Yeah,
something.
So,
That's-
yeah, I would so move that we send that letter again.
So yes, we'll send that letter again.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So send letter. Okay. Item number 11, Appeal 3897, Lori Amariti. Daniel Lori and Lisa Amariti, 35 Larry Williams Road, Homes, are requesting a 2-foot variance for an existing 8-foot chain link fence in their rear yard pursuant to Section 194-98B of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Hi again.
So it's been a while since we've seen you as well. Again, you were also waiting for the amnesty issue to get resolved. In your case, though, as you probably heard us discuss a little bit earlier, we've had some discussion about the black vinyl-covered chain link fences.
Right.
Actually, the fact that it's certainly a more expensive fence, but it's really, with the coating on it, it really can be classified as decorative.
Correct.
So in your case, though, you mentioned that you had some small pets that had, if I remember, oh my God, I'm going back months.
I don't have a German Shepherd.
You don't have a German Shepherd?
These are small animals.
Right, you had small animals that you had wild animals
Correct.
jumping over your fence and attacking, so,
And I took some pictures per your request from, if I can approach.
yes, please.
So, this first picture is from the private road. and
Okay.
I walked it out with a tape, it's about 275 feet,
Wow.
so you can't see the fence.
Because the fence is just in the backyard.
Correct.
Right.
And then this is close up, and even close up, it's very
I don't
hard.
even see it, yeah. That's it right there, but it's so hard to see it.
So that was one.
That's why the black vinyl fence really is
I designed
not
it
quite
so it,
invisible, but it's very, very much less visible than, it's not like white vinyl that
Right.
jumps out at you,
yeah, no, white vinyl.
right? Okay, can we keep these pictures for our file?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, and I dated the back.
Good, thank you. All right, so are there, again, we were just waiting for the amnesty law to get resolved so
Right.
that Mr. Laurie would know where he stood. So with that, knowing that he, he is requesting, it's only in the rear yard.
Correct.
Do I have a
Motion
motion?
Fully
to advertise.
invisible.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so Pam will give you your instructions at the end there. She'll give you your instructions for your signs,
Oh, great,
and
thank
then
you.
we'll see you next month, okay?
So next, I'm sorry, so if I understand, I'm gonna get a sign?
You're gonna come back next month for the public hearing, remember the first part? So you have to notify your neighbors, they're gonna have an opportunity to tell us anything they think that we need to know. If you have an opportunity to talk to any of them ahead of time and have them write letters, that would be helpful,
Okay,
okay?
thank you.
All right, I had mentioned previously that item number 12 had been withdrawn. So that's appeal number 3904, 2A. The board needs to act to authorize a refund of $70 to the applicant. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So the refund is permitted. Okay, so item number 13, appeal 3911, Traditi. All of these applications from here on in are new. This is the first time the board is seeing these. So Tara Traditi, 32 Carroll Drive, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a 2-foot variance to allow a 6-foot fence to be located in front of her dwelling, as well as a 25-foot front line variance for an existing 8-foot by 10-foot shed pursuant to sections 194-98 and 194-107 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Hello.
Okay, so again, the first time we're seeing your application. So if you don't mind taking us through what you're proposing.
Okay, so our house sits perpendicular to the road. So what is being viewed as our front yard is really our side yard. And we have dogs and we have an electric fence, but with the addition of the rail trail, we get a lot of extra traffic now, bike traffic, walking traffic, that comes in through our road and goes back out. It's sort of like an extra loop from the rail trail.
Oh.
And our dogs there's a lot of traffic and they sort of run. I mean, they really just worn a ditch in the
Bark.
yard. So, because it's all open to the road. So we'd like to put a fence.
Okay.
That sort of comes from the back end of the house towards, along the road, but it's back far enough off the road, like 21 feet.
It's not going to block sight distance or anything like that?
Nope.
Okay.
21 feet off the road edge.
Okay. Road edge or off, where is it from the property line, though?
It was the property line where he took the measurement, 21 feet from the property line.
Okay. So that's another 10 feet or so to the road?
Yes.
So it's like 31 feet?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I need to understand which is this an official survey
This
of
is
your
what we
lot?
got when we bought the house. This was something that was given to us.
Because when we look at parcel access,
Yep.
there's not a single lot that lines up with the look of this lot, the shape of this lot. So I can't even figure out what lot it is. So it's not making sense to me. Here, you want to, go ahead, because I think the lot number might have been wrong, Pam, when we were
Yeah, it
looking at
doesn't,
this.
this map doesn't look like this.
Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, you see what I'm talking about. It just doesn't line up. So which house is your house? What's the-
32.
No, what's the
On
lot
the map.
on there?
Oh, the
There's a
lot number?
number? On the aerial that you're holding in your
This
left
one.
hand. What's the lot number on there? The last 2 digits or so.
Oh, I don't know.
You see what I'm talking about? It does,
This doesn't have the
It
numbers.
doesn't have a lot.
oh, yours doesn't have it?
No.
I can't pick out a stream on here. Are we in a totally wrong area?
But there's no lot that
Yeah, this is.
lines up with that.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling that's not a complete survey.
The stream is what borders the back of our property.
Yep.
I don't know. It doesn't look like this shape at all.
Is this the stream?
Okay, do you have a more recent survey than that? When did you buy your house?
2003.
Okay. Because there's, my concern is the lot we think it is, which ends in 779-705 on the aerial that you have, Jim. There's other structures that are showing up on your property that are not on that survey, and they look awfully close to the property lines.
So when we bought the property, there were 2 sheds on
Okay.
it. There's one along the neighbor's yard, the one neighbor, right? But then there's another one in the back corner, and they were both there. And
Okay,
this
the one you're
variance-
asking for the variance on because it's in the front of your
Yes,
That's what
home.
it sort of looks like.
that was there when we purchased it.
But both of them were there when, so your sheds should be subject to the to the shed amnesty,
Yes, I have a.
except for the fact that one's in the front line of the house, so that's not gonna get excused. Okay, so that we'll still deal with.
Yep.
But we kinda need a survey, so,
Even if it's just for the front line along the road, and it doesn't worry about either neighbor's property, it's really just the front along the road.
So
let's
this
see if
is
Jim has
just,
figured this out yet.
no, I'm looking at what you might be the same
You
thing.
can't be
It doesn't-
guessing, I mean.
Doesn't make sense, yeah.
This is, I don't know, this is what Max had given me.
Curve.
to-
Yeah, that's what we have. We have, we have the black and white version of it, and it's, so which lot on there is it? Where is it?
You,
Number 32? You got a number on there?
Do you want me to give you this?
There's no property
yeah, I think we're looking at
address.
the same thing. I think you're right. So this one, is that a pond or something on the
Yes.
property? That's it.
So that's it.
Okay, this one.
How that got to be this, I have no idea.
So what's the lot number on that? The parcel access?
705.
Okay, so it is the one that we were thinking it might be. So if you see the structure, the house, and then there's other structures here, so that's what we weren't sure. One is obviously a shed that they're talking about.
It's still there?
Yes, and that's where they're asking for a variance for that, because
But
well,
it
there's
seems
one shed that's in the front of the house, and that's,
there's something up here also.
is there something along the street? Is that the shed that you're talking about?
No, there's
Yeah,
nothing.
along the street is the shed that we're
But
talking about.
it's over 30 feet off the road, though,
Yeah, 21, it's the same distance as where we want to put the fence.
where the line of the
So it's the
shed.
right of way and then the
Yeah.
21 feet in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this one
So
looks
this
quite, yeah.
extra traffic is actually just traffic on Carroll Drive. It's nothing to do with the rail trail itself.
No, no, no,
it's-
we
no,
use the
it's-
rail trail, it's beautiful,
Yeah, well-
but there's a lot of bikers and everything.
Traffic on
And it's,
Carroll.
it's more consideration for the people walking by and riding by, so they don't hear the dogs bark and everything.
Where's the rail trail?
It's on Martin, but they come down off the rail trail and come in.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it's
Yeah,
not,
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
no, no, they
missing it
come-
is it on the aerial? I don't see
No.
it.
No, no, this,
It goes up through Martin, but they come down and around the loop.
I ignore that. See, this
So it's-
curve
yeah, it's on
matches
here.
that curve.
Right.
But so
This
far away, I
house
mean.
matches that house. So then they have. a
And then
shed,
there's the
a
bridge that's
pond,
gonna be construction
pond.
starting next year. It's gonna, I mean, we won't even be able to go out in the backyard, right? And that's what we have now. It's hard to even use the yard without any privacy.
they're gonna replace that 20,
I guess
That
20-ton
bridge?
bridge
that along the
off
road.
of Carroll?
I have no idea, I mean, I can't even visualize it.
Yeah,
What is it, I mean, this is a stream or something in the back?
Stream is in the back.
Where's the rail trail? I don't see.
Oh, the rail trail
it's,
is off, you know where Daddy O's is?
where is it?
Daddy O's?
You were saying that your dogs are running up.
Yeah, so they come off the rail trail. There's up on Martin, the bikes come down and they do an extra loop.
It's
And they
another
come
like
past our
mile
road,
and a half that they could ride the bike on,
and there's a
and
lot
then
of
they go back to the
bike
rail
traffic
trail.
and walking traffic.
It's a big
And-
loop in there.
So the fence is gonna be facing Carroll Drive?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's going to be on the side of your house?
Yes. We won't put
Yeah,
it,
it's-
it's sort
it's-
of the back, but the side.
The house is facing different.
The
not
left side
Face on.
or the right side?
But you want to come from your
If you're
one-
looking at
you
your
wanna-
house, if you're on Carroll Drive, standing there looking at your house,
Gonna be
You
on the
see the
right.
side of my
it's
house?
on the right side.
Yeah.
So you're gonna go, you're gonna go from the right corner of your house.
Yes.
You're gonna come forward how far?
Not, I think
Two-
it's 2 sections, so it's about 16 feet. It's going to be 2 sections.
2 8-foot sections,
Yes.
16 feet?
Yeah,
And then
and
you're gonna go
cross.
right angle across the.
Right
That's
up to
right.
The road.
the
Yes,
shed. Yeah.
exactly.
There you go, right there.
Okay.
So you're coming from here and going
So how
across.
long a length of fence is it?
It's 71,
You
72.
heard what we were talking
did.
about before? So
We have a
what do
plan
you-
for that already, yeah.
You have a
We-
landscape?
Well, we don't have a drawing yet, but we know, sorry, we know what we're going to do.
Please be prepared with a landscape drawing.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't
And
know
we're
what
gonna
color
put-
you're proposing.
We're going to
white-
put evergreens
white,
in,
okay,
deer
yeah,
safe.
that's- You're at least proposing something further back in than
Oh, yeah,
what they were?
yeah.
But still, it's, when it suddenly goes up, it becomes a,
Big eyesore, I get it.
well, not necessarily eyesore. Some of the fences are really, really nice. But
Yeah, but I don't know if it's ready for a public hearing, because if you look at it, the shed is in the back up there. Here, the shed is on this side, and there's
No,
some
they're saying
structure.
it's in the front. Their
saying it's in the front.
testimony here,
No, but
whatever you
again,
wanna call it, is in the
but parcel access is not showing that. And if it is in the front,
well, parcel access, the lines aren't exactly where
I
they
It
should
should be
be.
blocked by trees.
I understand, but look at the Carroll Drive. So we don't even know how far.
Oh, you have pictures?
Yeah, Rick
Oh,
just,
hold on. Rick gave me pictures.
You can't always see it on parcel access.
Yeah, but again, it's
How
within
big is the
20
shed?
feet, and you
8 by
need
10.
a
8
Oh,
by
this
10.
setback. So the setback, it doesn't even know the setback if it's 20 feet.
How
Well,
big is
that's what
this
she's
shed?
saying.
8 by
8
10?
by 10.
Why can't you move it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like right,
Well,
It looks like a little
well,
toy house.
It's
It
not
looks like a
that
little
easy.
kid's toy house.
It's so,
It's not even that.
I don't know where we would
We
put
have a
it.
hill. We can't put it nowhere else. If that, we have to take it down.
nah.
Why can't you just back it up?
You probably
Because there's
could,
a hill right there. We live,
you can't move
it's
it closer
sloped.
to your driveway?
If we're
No.
looking at this, you
You
can't
put it
go
in the
back
front-
that way?
hold
No.
on, is that?
Turn
Yes,
it around and
he
you get a
has
sense
those.
that they did have to level it off to be able to put it where it is? Well, did you put it there?
No.
No, that
Okay,
was,
so you bought it with
it
it
was there.
Yes.
This is the road over here. That's going by. I'm not understanding, because if I look at this, I can't see why it can't go to the left.
Because
Because
it's
it's going
right
down
from
the hill.
there, it's downhill. I mean, you can't move it.
This isn't showing, that's why I'm confused.
No, that's farther back.
So that becomes, that piece right there is the only usable piece of the property if you want to sit outside or sit in the yard, because that's all there is.
So if you, that's my question,
Yeah.
just so I can understand. If
Yep.
you took this and you moved it 10 feet to the left,
It'll be down the
It'll
hill.
be down near the pond, to be honest with you. Because there's a hill. It's a raised property. I got flat land on the,
With
where the
wet.
pond is.
Oh,
Again,
okay,
can
that
you move it to
shows
the
it.
other side of the house?
No.
Yeah, I think the building department should go and do a site visit. and-
Well, you did
that?
already.
Is that the
Yeah.
well?
They did
Is
already.
that the
They just
wellhead
need
at the
Okay,
corner?
and so
Yeah,
is there
there's
another,
that pipe thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the well.
okay. Is there another location that you could suggest, or this is the best location?
Maybe next to the other shed,
No, that won't work either.
There's
That
no,
won't work either.
down to the pond.
Yeah.
yeah, it would be down by the
It's a
pond,
raised.
which is floods.
Damn, keep on hitting that.
So the fence would go from the house to that in front of the pond?
The pond is
pond's
down
below.
in the back of the property,
Yeah, the
which
pond
is
is
flooding
behind.
property, you can't use it.
Is that the pond?
No, that's where the hill starts.
I know, but there's a
Can I
gray
come up and-
section.
can I come
Yeah.
up and-
So it's further back.
Is
Now
that-
you understand why we want to
Is
figure
that
this out
gray
before we
section
open this
water?
up
Yeah,
for a
that's
public
the
hearing.
pond.
That's what I
So
thought.
that shed,
Yeah.
it has maybe
So they made a,
6-7 feet around.
Yeah, they made a platform for it. It's, that's pretty
yeah,
clear.
right by the
It's all
wellhead.
hill around our house.
I see that.
So that's, we're very limited of space.
So you
for where we
wanna-
can live.
I think you need to put it underneath the deck.
He's gonna go live in it.
Whoa, wait, no, don't go there.
Oh, yeah, that's, okay, because there used to be a bigger deck, I had to take it down so we could enjoy the land. There was another lower deck on there, I took it down.
So you're gonna put the fence,
From
so
the end
we're,
of the
so
house?
people driving on the street are not gonna wonder what that little house is there?
No, because it's there.
It's there, but what I'm saying is the fence is now gonna block this?
Well, it'll come to the front edge of it. It
So
won't,
they're actually
it
gonna
won't,
connect the house and the shed
Yes.
with the
Yes.
fence.
Okay.
The whole purpose of the fence is to just
Privacy.
privacy.
and the dogs
And the dogs.
who have
Yeah, more or
worn a
less,
trench.
consider for the people that are riding
Mhm.
by and running by and walking
Yeah.
by.
Dogs going crazy when everyone comes by.
Yes.
Still
they go
just
nuts.
worry
To be honest
about
with
where
you,
your
we
actual
pay them
property lines
because I
are
work
though.
midnights to have,
From the front of
you
the
know,
road?
protection for.
Well, not the
kids.
front road, the side of the house and everything.
There's a whole bunch of area available here next to the house for the shed.
And that's the question, do you,
It's in the front of the house.
how do we really know
It's
how far
sideways.
from the road is your property
This is
line?
their front yard,
How do you know where your
Oh, this is the
property
front
line
yard?
is?
yeah.
But it's
Are you
already in the
measuring
front
from the
yard.
paved roadway?
No. The
Measuring the front
the guy
line.
that did the fence
Be
came
closer to the
and
house.
measured for the fence. He measured. And he said it was
Yeah.
10 feet from the edge, and then
Who measured?
the guy that was gonna do the fence.
So he measured from the road and he said it was 10 feet?
He said it was 21 feet from the property line.
From the
How-
property line
how
or
does
from
he
the
know?
road bed?
From the property
That's-
line
How
is
would
what
he
he-
know if he didn't have a survey?
Well,
Well,
he's going by that drawing.
It's from the road, right? So that's where he's
No, it's not from
measuring.
the road, there's usually a right-of-way there.
Right, 10 feet.
Could be less.
Could be more.
He assumed it was 10 feet
Because
He
like,
assumed
for
it, but that
example, my
doesn't-
property
from the road.
isn't straight, and neither is yours. You're on a curve. So your property line might be in straight lines and keeps cutting at an angle. So at the points, it might only be 5 feet from the roadway, but in the middle where the arc is, it may be 15 feet from the roadway.
I understand what you're saying. I see this curve. But the curve is well beyond where this is, where we're talking, but I understand.
The point is, you just don't know. You
Without a
can't
survey.
guarantee that it's 10
Yep.
feet. And sometimes they pave it, they're not being that precise. That's why there's a 10-foot buffer, so they can have that to work with, and if they need to put in underground utilities or something.
And this
they have room.
doesn't give you any numbers in the front? I don't know what
It
any of
doesn't
these
even look
mean.
like your lot.
I don't know what
That's
those numbers
why,
mean.
that's not helpful at all. That's what, that's why I was pointing out right from the start, I could not match up
Yeah,
that
Yeah, that-
frankly hand-drawn survey with the, with the lots in the area. So I don't know how quickly you can get a survey done, but it
Now,
really
we
would be
need
in
a
your
whole
best
full
interest to
survey
get
or
a survey
partial?
done.
Since it's only in the front of the house.
You're putting the fence around the house or just?
No, it's just gonna be like L-shaped.
I'll just-
That's all.
Okay.
Connecting these.
I don't
two
think
points.
you have a full survey of your whole house, though. You may want to just, when you go to sell your house, it's going to be easier if you have this survey done, so that you know exactly what property your property is, to show the people who are going to want to buy your house in the future. So you're going to use it again, it's just,
The bottom line is, we can't know what
Can't
the
tell.
actual variance is until you know where your property
Right.
line is.
okay.
because especially that front, if there's no right-of-way there, then you could be 31 feet away. If the right-of-way is less than the 10 feet, we don't know. We're like grasping at straws right now, because it's,
And this is for, how high of a fence?
6 foot.
6 foot.
so again, so when you come back, we'll need a survey and we'll need a landscape plan. I'm not looking for the whole line, as you heard us all say before, just something to break up that fence. 71 feet of white fence is,
That's no problem.
okay?
Okay.
We will see you again next month.
Thank you.
So, do you want to come next month or 2 months from now?
Well-
Because survey is
So
going to take.
they can always
can we
reach out
answer
to
that
Pam and
if
just
we
let
can
her
get
know
the- I
ahead of
know
time.
Try
Yeah,
to get the survey.
yeah.
ASAP.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll talk about it next month.
thank you.
Good night.
That is Pam's back. Yeah, you saw the lot just was, somebody looking at the application, you couldn't figure that out ahead of time.
Yeah, that's impossible.
That might be yours, because mine,
That could, I
No.
don't know, it just came from some.
that's mine.
Okay.
I was looking at two applications got combined here. All right. So need survey. Okay, so we are up to item number 14.
Appeal 3912 Ramirez, Joseph Ramirez, 14 Fenor Court, Hopewell Junction, requesting a variance to allow a 6-foot fence and to be located in front of the dwelling pursuant to section 194-98 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so, again, as you just heard, take us through your application. This is the first we're seeing it.
Okay. So the end of my backyard ends on Route 82.
Okay?
I guess I need supposed to be 100 feet from Route 82, I was told. But my backyard's 120 feet, so that would
You
put
know,
my...
you have a conservation easement in your backyard. That's what the issue is. So, that's what you... So a conservation easement means that somebody wanted to protect some land along the way there. Okay, I know where you are now. You're down a ways down.
Down 82, right
Down
before the
82.
Taconic.
Okay, so when that subdivision got approved, the idea was that we created a conservation easement, open space around the entire development, but we allowed the lots to be smaller and closer together, a cluster subdivision. And so, but the idea was to preserve space. You should not be blocking that space.
I don't want to block it. I just want to put a fence right where that is.
Right where what is? Along the
Right,
back
along the-
property line or
along-
or along the front property, along the front of the easement?
I guess the front of the easement.
So you're recognizing that you're then
There'll be
going,
a
right now,
fence
you have
there.
the use of that property, but if you put a fence in front of it, you're gonna restrict your own use of that property.
No, there's trees there and stuff.
Yep,
I don't go there at all. There's,
You can't block the conservation easement.
I don't think you put a fence in the conservation easement.
Right, that's what I'm saying, you can't put a fence in the conservation easement. You can't block it by any,
so I can't put a fence at the end of my property?
Your property line goes into the conservation easement, so where the conservation easement starts, it starts before your property line. There's a little dotted line showing where the conservation easement starts. That's as far back as you can put your fence.
You can't go along your back property line.
unless, do you have the language of the conservation easement? Do you see what it allows?
No, I don't.
Okay, do you have your title report from when you bought your house? If you have your title report, that should lay out the conservation easement for you.
I guess my neighbors have the fences right where I want to put mine as well.
That doesn't mean it's right, all right?
Honestly, it's
does
just
something we don't know
the
about.
noise and the traffic coming
I
off 82
understand.
into my house is just horrible.
I don't know that
And-
your neighbors also have the same conservation easement. That's one of the issues. All right, you should go back to all the documents you got. How long have you lived in your house?
A year and a half.
Okay, when you closed on your house, you got a whole package of information. You should look for your title report, because the title report should lay out the easements, any easements on your property, any restrictions that are deed restrictions, anything that's filed on there. So if you look at the title report, it should lay out what's allowed in the conservation, what might be restricted. You gotta see if a fence is allowed or not. Otherwise, it might say nothing's allowed in there. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, well, no, hold on. So, when you talk about putting a fence there, because, again, now I know that where this is, this general, some of the fences that are over there are, yeah, they're 6-foot or 4-foot fences, but they're elevated. There are posts, and then they don't start them at the ground, they start them higher up. What were you proposing to put there?
I wanted to just put some fill and have the fence, so it's at 6 feet at street level.
Okay, so you are gonna actually raise
There's
up
a
the
couple-
ground
I'd
level
say about
first.
3/4 of my property is leveled. I'd say about 1/4 of it kind of dips in a little bit. I want to just fill the low areas so that the fence will stay up leveled, instead of having something going up and down.
Okay, but what you gotta be careful, that might be a swale, that might be a drainage. I don't know, I don't have, beyond this survey that you gave us. You might have, the swale might be to direct water.
No, it's not a swell, it's just,
You said it went up and down, so,
no, like if my neighbor's is the corner, right? So his is pretty flat, and then it just starts going up like this,
okay.
right? So just towards let me show you right here. Like this is all flat, and like around this corner here, that's where it dips down a little bit. That's the only area that would need to be raised a little bit.
Okay, do you have, does yours show a dotted line across there and it says conservation easement?
Yes.
Okay, if you want to
Like
put the
this?
fence in front of that dotted line,
No, that's
closer to your
useless.
house,
That's useless.
that's why you got to go look and see what's allowed by your conservation
approve
easement.
The whole point of putting the fence is so I don't see the traffic and
We
Pretty much.
understand, we understand what you're saying. We cannot approve anything that's not permitted by
Right.
what you are allowed to do. Simple. Whether somebody else did or not, that's not before us. The only thing before us is your application. So if it's not allowed, we can't approve it.
So you guys are certain that it's not allowed, or you guys don't know?
No, we're asking that you should get that.
You
so-
have,
So I
we're
should-
telling you, you have to do some research on your conservation easement.
Okay.
To see if it is allowed by your easement.
To
If
buy
it
my
says it's
easement?
allowed,
If it's allowed to
it's
put
a
a,
whole other story, and you come back. If it says it's not allowed, then
Usually a conservation easement doesn't
Means you
allow.
can't touch it.
Conservation easement usually means they don't want anybody to remove the vegetation, they want it to stay
You're probably
open and
not
green.
supposed to.
but
put
it would stay, everything would stay. I'm not removing anything from there.
But you're not
You're
supposed to
you're
put
talking
fill
about bringing in
underneath
fill to raise up the fence.
Yeah, but I'm not removing anything, it would just be
it. Okay.
It generally says no structures too in a conservation easement area.
no structures.
Usually, so.
Something to that
Take a look
effect. It
at
may
your
not be the
easement.
exact
If you don't have a title report that has it, you should be able to get it from Dutchess County. It should be recorded in the Dutchess County land records.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
So we'll keep you on for next month, because if you find out you are allowed, you can come back and tell us that.
My suggestion is you should print it out and buy a
Right,
copy. for
bring a
your
copy
file.
in, because we're going to want to see that.
yeah,
Okay.
check that out first.
All right.
If
Thank
you find that you're not, and you're going to withdraw your application again, just let the clerk know that, so that.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
All right? Okay. Item number 15, Appeal 3913 Tucker. Lori A. Tucker, 157 Binnewater Drive, Hopewell Junction, is requesting a special permit in order to bring in 3,000 to 5,000 cubic yards of fill pursuant to Section 194-75 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening. Hi. So I understand from my preview of that you have a property, and there's a bunch of properties in your area there that like really drop off
Yes.
significantly.
A 45-foot drop-off.
30, okay, yeah, I was gonna
45
say,
foot
it's very,
approximate.
very steep back
Yeah.
there, so you probably don't even have much of a rear yard.
No.
Okay, all right, so what you're really looking to do, and I understand that as a courtesy, the town engineer went out there, and just kind of looked at the yard with you, and he's the one who suggested your best bet is to bring in some fill.
Yes.
We can't approve 3,000, such a range of 3,000 to 5,000 square feet, so I'm gonna ask you to pick one of those as your limit.
Okay.
All right? Understanding that your neighbors, when we notice them, are gonna wanna know, how many trucks are we talking about? Okay, if you think of a 30-yard dumpster, 3,000 square feet is 100 of those being brought in. Your neighbors are gonna wanna know that you're talking 100 trucks coming in, okay? That's why we're asking you, pick a number. What are you thinking of? Do you have any sense, if you're talking 45 foot of a drop and how many feet out you wanna go, what's that? You know, in essence, an engineer could tell you that, somebody could do the math, if you could do the math, and just figure out really what's the area that you're trying to create to help you understand what's the amount of fill that you need.
Okay, from what I understand, I have about 270 road frontage. It's a
Okay.
very narrow property, it's all rock ledge. Right now, where we park our cars is quite a ways away from the house. It was an old cabin that we converted into a home permanently.
Okay.
So it's a long walkway, and it's all rock ledge. So we have a stepping stone walkway right now, and right now, we're trying to get the 375 brought in
Okay.
to fill, so we can grade
You
that
heard
down
our
a little bit.
discussion before about making sure the fill is clean.
Oh, let me tell you. I just worked in jail for 30 years. I'm not going back for all the wrong reasons. I've already cleared that. I've already checked it.
Thank you.
DEC has checked it.
Good.
He's been out to the site. The engineer's been out to the site. I'm not doing anything. I'm going right here.
Keep the records.
I've been in
All
Pam,
right, just keep your
Pam's face
records.
5 times, so.
Good, thank you.
But at the end of the day, I'm just trying to get, right now, the car
Yeah.
to be able to get closer to the house, because I have my mother who's 80, and she's got some pretty severe
Okay.
medical issues. So that was my main concern for the 275 or 375?
375 is what anybody is allowed in
Right.
1 year with a permit.
And I got the permit for that, and I think I paid 170 or 175 for that. That was
Okay.
done. And this was just for the extra.
Okay.
And now I have to tell you whether it be 3,500 or 5,000?
Whatever that, you pick a number.
No
The-
freaking clue. What is it? Can we do 4?
I mean, well, no, that's fine. You can do the 5 if you
Oh,
want.
okay.
Again, it's just understanding that when we advertise this, your neighbors are gonna wanna know over the course of 5 years, 10 years, what is it you're
Right.
talking about? 1 year, I mean, how many trucks are you
Right.
really talking about? They are entitled to know that,
Okay.
okay? Noise, the dust being raised by the trucks, that's all part of the, what we have to consider.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's
So-
something you need to investigate so that you can answer those questions.
Right.
Are they gonna, for example, go, try to do it all in 1 week, or is it
Oh.
something that
Yeah, you can't.
I'm not
No, I
suggesting
can't do
that.
that. I'm not gonna do that,
suggesting
yeah.
That you get an idea how long this is gonna go on,
Right.
and how many trucks per day, or how many trucks per week, how many, whatever you're doing, get an idea of that, so that can be answered.
Well, with this drop-off that we have in the back, we basically want to be able to access that for a lawn. And whatever amount takes for us to
I
access
would
that.
suggest go with the 5,000 and then we can always come down.
You
I-
said we
okay.
go with a limit of 5,000,
Okay.
and if there's an objection by your neighbors, then you know what, then at that point, we reduce
It's
it.
easier to go down than to
Right.
go up.
Exactly.
All right, and you have, if we give you the permit to do that, then it's there for whenever you go to fill it
Right.
out.
We're looking at like over the next couple of years. We're not looking to do that overnight, so. and
Understood.
Our neighbors
So we're
have
gonna go with
also-
the 5,000.
Yeah.
Because,
Sure.
like I said, we're aware of that neighborhood has that issue in the back, multiple lots.
Yeah.
And I do believe other neighbors in the area have filled in, so, we've seen that before, so.
Yeah, they're right on both sides of me.
Yeah, so I think,
Motion, okay, oh, yes.
no, I think we're good. I think go ahead, motion to
Motion to
advertise.
advertise?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so Pam will give you your information on your sign. You gotta put a sign on your property. This isn't a private road. They don't wanna know. Gary Williams was. His town road, yeah, so she just needs the one sign. That's fine. Okay, so
Now,
we'll
is this
see you
done
next.
now, or next month we come back?
Next month you'll come for the public hearing, but in the meantime, Pam's gonna give you your instructions, so you put a sign out,
Okay,
okay?
thank
And
you.
you can talk to the neighbors and get their letters or approvals, or they can email us letters or whatever.
Actually, we just had my next-door neighbors and the one neighbor that was gonna come tonight, but he had to work. 3 of them came, we sent them home because we didn't
Yeah,
think
it's
we
not
needed
for-
them tonight.
Right, not for
Okay.
tonight.
But they're all on board with it, so everybody on the road, we've been here 28
And they
years.
can send a letter.
Yeah,
They're
you can
welcome
do
to
a
send a
letter.
letter, so that if they don't wanna come.
Okay, yeah, this is,
Not that this
wait.
isn't a fascinating
Yeah.
discussion that we have here.
you know,
You
you passed
learned
my
a lot.
bedtime, honey, I'm in bed by 8.
You try. All right, the last 2 items of the evening. So we have item number 16, Appeal 3914 Teal. Scott Teal, 115 East Mountain Road, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 12-foot sideline variance in order to construct a 10-foot by 18-foot shed pursuant to Section 194-107B of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
My name is Rahul Verma, I'm the representing Scott.
Okay, that's fine. So,
Just give me a
again,
second
first
to
time
get-
we're seeing your application, if you don't mind taking us through it.
Of course. Just give me a second to unfold this.
Have a good night.
Good night.
So Scott's residence borders on East Mountain Road and what is the one back? Grimm. The actual front of the house faces Grimm Road, which is the one on the left side of your plan where it's not labeled.
We didn't get the plans. We don't have a survey.
We submitted all that.
7 copies of everything.
We did, we got plans. I have them.
I didn't get any.
Somebody
so I
skipped
don't
me.
got plans.
You don't have? Okay, well, we have them. Don't worry,
Okay.
we can share. We can share, not to worry.
I don't wanna go back to back with a neighbor, huh?
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. So the actual front of the house faces Grimm Road, which is on the left side of your plan. He has 2 front yards, the other frontage being on East Mountain Road. Functionally, The house is entered from East Mountain Road. You see the driveway there going to
So
the
this
garage.
is not just a corner lot with 2 drives, it's a corner lot with 3 drives. He's got 3 front yards. Sunset
Oh,
Drive.
Sunset, yeah,
East
okay,
Mountain.
right,
And Grimm.
right. The only actual driveway is off of East Mountain Drive.
Okay. Okay,
Because this is East Mountain, that says Grace.
so what is he proposing?
So he's asking to put a shed where shown.
Right.
Near the property line, within that 15-foot setback, about 3 feet off, in that corner to
Block
essentially.
the other person's shed.
You're right. Or have, I like to put it as having that person.
He's selling his neighbor out
right?
here, but go ahead.
I like to put it that his shed will be blocked by his neighbor's shed, right? In that corner, and the other corner is shielded by vegetation, trees, and some existing fencing.
Okay, where's the septic?
Your
Why
septic-
is it tucked in the corner there?
It's in the front of the house.
Septic's in the front of the house?
The front of the house.
Define front of the house.
Facing Sunset Drive.
Off of which?
Grimm Road,
Grimm?
which should
Okay,
be-
so this side.
Oh, that's.
The
Okay.
left side here.
I mean, technically, he has a frontage over on that side, but that's really the back of his house, right?
I'm sorry, I missed the
It's the
question.
best place for it.
That's the back of the house.
So your property slopes down.
This is a. front,
Correct.
so This technically is frontage.
Actually have,
I didn't get that.
no, this we just got today. I asked Rick to go out and do a site visit, so Rick went out and took some
So
pictures.
basically,
Line is a backyard.
It's more of a backyard.
your Sunset Drive is your front portion, but this portion is not
It's a
your.
backyard.
It's a backyard.
Here's the building department report.
But, so this is a backyard because only this portion is front yard. Only this portion is front yard.
Why isn't this front
It's
yard?
an
No,
interesting
front
house.
yard, front yard, front yard.
Right.
This portion is backyard,
Yeah, well, it's,
Okay.
yeah, it's a side yard.
side yard, okay.
It's their backyard, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
his side yard.
Okay, okay,
This is his, well,
all right, okay.
it's up to him to choose which is his backyard,
Okay, so
honestly.
why, is that the best location to put this
Right,
particular
that's-
shed?
Yes, so in going through the property, as you move it further towards the bottom of the page, it gets more visible from the road, and then to the neighbors off on the right side, the neighbors on Sunset Drive, their homes, the way they're situated, would be looking at that shed, if you move that shed to the east along that property line.
So you're moving it, so currently it's approximately 3 feet from the property line right now.
That's
Can
what
it
he's
be- can it
requesting.
be moved further back in, so that the variance is not,
I presume.
you know, like 12 feet, it can be, you know, for example, can it be moved 15 feet further in? I mean, like,
Well, it only has to be
Good.
15 feet
no,
in.
no, can it
So-
can it be moved 12 feet further in?
But it's according to the plot plan.
That would require taking down that chestnut tree,
Oh,
which is a very large, healthy, it's a very large, healthy
Okay, so
tree.
there's a chestnut tree over
Yeah.
there. Okay, so there's some.
You want to move it which way?
Wall.
Oh, and I'm sorry, and then, right, so near the rear of where we have the shed shown, the property starts sloping down again, and there's a boulder retaining wall that goes from 0 to about 4-ish feet high. That's an immediate drop down to the back property line. So pushing it back would actually end up sticking the back of the shed further in the air.
Okay.
So you're back to back against someone else's shed, basically.
Yeah.
Correct.
So they have their,
The other neighbor below, he's got a shed and garage and all that. It's not shown on here, but, you know, this is
so
kind of
there are
tucked.
multiple sheds, more or less in that.
Yeah, it's
that
like
area.
it'll be like a cluster of
It's not out of
outbuildings
character.
and stuff.
No, it's not the hillside
Shed
lake, man.
townhouse.
Excuse me?
Seems
It's
like
like the
the,
townhouses of sheds.
Right. It's their own little shed community.
It's wood for the,
is that ready for the bonfire? What's that pile?
What is this wood stack here that's like,
Beehive type thing.
What is that?
there's a wood stack that looks like it's,
The one in front of your
Oh,
house?
that's my firewood. I've been splitting. I'm working on that pile. It's gonna take a while.
A lot neater than mine.
I don't split as fast as I
It's
used
not
to.
artistic, or you just, you know,
I just decided to stack it that way this year.
okay.
Until I'm done splitting it, then it gets stacked proper.
Looks like a house of cards, you know? If you take out the wrong piece, well, I don't know.
That's a very
I think that's the
up-to-date
best
photo.
location, other than the fact that it's so close to the property line, but. that's-
Yes, if it's not
that's-
impacting your septic or anything like that, I agree. Chestnut trees are pretty rare
Yeah.
to see one that's healthy,
Yeah,
full
it's
grown,
there
et
somewhere
cetera.
else.
That's,
so motion
hold
to
hold on one second. I need to understand, is this 1 lot or is this 3 lots? Because the parcel that kind of hooks out onto Sunset is shown on the, Dutchess County as one lot. Then there's a stretch in the middle that shows up as a second lot. So did you combine these lots at some point?
Well, technically, it's 3.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, technically, I think it is 3, and that's why I'm asking the question.
You got this?
No, we don't have that.
That was the original subdivision?
Yeah, this shows my 3 lots.
How many acres do you have total now?
.85 approximately.
Because in essence, if that middle lot, the long stretch is a separate lot, you're putting a shed on a lot that doesn't have a house on it. But if you're not,
Part of my greater lot, I could never.
I don't think you can actually get a buildable
Yeah, I
lot
can't-
there.
My 2 lots, I can't. I have
Okay.
The homestead lot, which is
And
the
the fact-
larger. You know, the home is on the homestead lot, and then, can I show you?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Come up.
Your plan, or so, this is the homestead lot, so that
Yeah, see?
is this lot.
Right.
And then there's
This-
a lot here.
Right, where you're proposing the shed,
Here, yes, is on.
and then this is a separate lot.
Yes, and I know that's not built.
But they're all undersized lots
Yeah,
and
obviously.
under the same ownership, so realistically, according to our code, they should all be combined anyway,
Yeah,
okay? So,
that's interesting, yeah.
yeah, no, we noticed that when we were,
So this is the
Okay.
hill area, and like I said, my neighbor's got a garage there, his woodshed, and some other stuff.
okay, so you're recognizing if we do approve the shed in this location, you're gonna combine these lots? Okay, you're using them as one lot
Well,
anyway?
yeah, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
sell them, I mean, I wish I
Yeah.
could kick these guys out.
Yeah, to put a house on that would be,
Not that I have anything.
this house wouldn't even fit on there, even with side yards,
No.
it really wouldn't even fit, so, okay, I just wanted to be sure, just for our records, that was what is going to happen. All right, so, motion to advertise,
Motion to advertise.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we will see you next month, Pam will give you your instructions for your sign, sorry.
Okay. Do I see?
Right there on the end.
Do we need 2 or 3
Oh,
signs?
3 signs, oh my gosh.
Oh, it's right.
You have
yeah,
3
fronts,
front
yep.
yards.
Because you have 3 front
We're gonna
yards.
put one on Sunset, one on East Mountain, and one on
Grim,
Grim.
yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
unfortunately.
Okay, so, okay,
Craig Smith,
yes.
must be you.
Did you notice my reference to the planning board in there before? All right, item number 17, Appeal 3915 Smith, Craig Smith, 710 Pine Grove Road, Wappingers Falls, is requesting a 10-foot sideline variance for a proposed generator pursuant to section 194-17 of the zoning ordinance. So good evening.
Good evening.
Did you
Good to
learn
see all of
something?
you.
Last but not least.
We have as much fun as you
All right.
guys do?
Oh, I don't know.
No, it's very good, actually. So, you are proposing to put a generator, which I get why, but why so far from your house? Why are you proposing it like in that back corner there? And the reason I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna ask, is because there's a shed right there, and it makes one wonder, is that a man cave? Is that a, what's gonna happen in that
It's a
shed?
she shed.
It's a she shed. Oh!
Arrow, she should.
No, so for the placement of the generator, there's a couple places on the property were looked at or recommended by the contractor. But the irregular lot size that the residence on is just kind of made it, one place is behind the house, and it's directly to where my neighbor's bedrooms are. So it would be, the sweet people. She's 93 years young, and, didn't want the generator near her.
Oh, so you've already conversed with your neighbors? You've
Oh,
already
yeah,
chatted
yeah,
with them?
yeah, they-
Okay.
So then the next spot was next to our porch, but our Bilco doors are right there, so that wasn't the ideal spot.
That's why we
to
asked the
place.
question.
And then
Okay.
so it ended up behind the shed.
Because in essence, it's gonna cost you more money to put it back there.
Yes, because they're gonna have to trench a line to.
But when you really are gonna need it is when nobody else has power, and then the noise is gonna be that much greater because nobody else has anything to distract them, which is why one would think you would try to put it as close to your own house, so you're the one that's most disturbed. But the fact that, number one, you've already talked to your neighbors is great, and two, that, you do have physical restrictions why it cannot go in other places.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So pretty much where you want to put it is backyards of your neighbor.
No, well, it's
No.
his backyard,
Looks
but,
like.
My
No,
backyard,
no, no, I mean their
but,
backyards,
yeah, the way the lot
but your
goes.
backyard, so it's far away from their house.
yes.
Yeah.
And if you looked at the top view, you see our closest neighbor, the Hitchens, are roughly 75 feet to a little bit more from their house to where the generator would sit. And my neighbor to my furthest left is about 125 or even further. Now, there's a house directly behind us, but it's unoccupied.
Okay,
And the way our shed is pitched, it's kind of pitched away from that house, so the
so that would block it a
sound,
little.
yeah, the sound would actually
So-
travel behind their house.
But, okay, all right, either that or it's gonna hit the shed and it's gonna go up.
Well, there's a slight elevation
Okay.
behind us, so it'll be dampened by the slight incline.
Okay.
So when I look at the site plan, it says proposed shed. When I'm looking at the pictures, the shed's already there?
There's an open
Yeah,
permit
yeah,
for you,
the-
so he's working on it right now.
Okay.
You can see from, this is the building department's, review of the.
Yeah, we just
file.
got the shed a couple, like the new one.
Are you proposing any landscaping around it? I know, generators, I don't know how big this one's gonna be, and, again, it just,
because it's
it
behind
can
it-
potentially catch some of the noise, that's all I'm getting at.
Put some evergreen there, arborvitae
Yeah,
there,
some
so-
arborvitae's or something.
Or a boxwood.
Long trench.
Yeah.
Yeah, boxwoods can grow,
Okay.
So, yeah, something
That's-
that, if we could, I don't think we necessarily, in this case, because it's not visible, it's more noise attenuation, if you can, include some landscaping in your,
And there's trees and woods to the left or the right, so it's not,
okay. Your
There's
lot
some
looks pretty
absorption.
clear. Your lot itself looks pretty clear from the pictures.
yeah, but behind it, if,
stuff.
I can bring pictures at the public hearing.
No, we can see behind it,
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
How many watt generator?
11,000 watts.
11,000, not
Yeah.
100,000.
Motion to advertise?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Motion to adjourn?
we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Now I'll take a motion to
All
adjourn.
right, thank you.
Adjourn.
Second?
Any
Second.
Craig, your sign. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Third.
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone.
Let's go back